This video will change the way you think about your health and emotions. Some of the most intriguing questions on how cancer can be linked to suppressing of your emotions, how anger, sadness, and happiness control your gut health, how our karmic cycles influence why we get some serious diseases. All of this is answered in this new episode as my guest is one of India's most renowned gut health coach, Dimple Jangda, who also is the founder of Prana Health and an author of the best-selling book, Heal Your Gut, Mind and Emotion.
On a full moon night, paramedics in New York City expect the maximum number of freak accidents.
How does the position of the moon decide your date of fasting?
On a full moon night and on a no moon night, your body's digestifier is very weak.
How come?
The waves in the ocean rise up to almost 10 to 11 feet on a full moon night. A body of water that is so massive can respond to the gravitational pull of the moon. What do you think our body is doing? A lot of thoughts from your subconscious mind start surfacing into your conscious mind. So on a full moon night, when you have so many thoughts and emotions that are surfacing in your conscious mind, you don't want to have indigestion of food and indigestion of thoughts.
What do you think is the biggest cause of any kind of cancer?
Ayurveda goes one step deeper, and it said something which really hit me. It said that diseases are triggered due to accumulation of past negative karma triggered by the position of the planet. A lot of scientists have proven that women are more prone to autoimmune diseases like thyroid, Hashimoto's, PCOS, PCOD, because they're constantly suppressing their emotions because they don't know how to express themselves. Kids in the US especially are exposed to almost 60 vaccines by the age of 5. And that's equal to 1,000 milligrams of aluminum in all of those vaccines put together. That aluminum is hugely damaging.
People who are having those green leafy vegetables without cooking it, all of those is not good for the health.
By mistake, we end up consuming foods like, say, uncooked capsicum or uncooked aubergine that has a lot of seeds. Those seeds are similar to tapeworm eggs, and you could end up eating tapeworm eggs instead of eating seeds. And those tapeworms, when they hatch from those eggs, they can travel in your bloodstream all the way up to your brain. I've seen it in my niece, by the way. She kept having epilepsis. They introduced a medicine through one nostril and blew really hard. The tapeworm came out of the left nostril.
Oh shit! One food that we're all eating in our daily lives that's secretly destroying us.
Research has shown that when you consume excessive
Welcome Dimple on our show. So excited to talk to you today about gut health.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
As a lot of people firstly don't know what gut really is. So let's just start from there. Ki gut hota kya hai, and then we'll talk about gut health. And also I'd love for you to give our audience a short brief about what you do so that they are more familiarized before we start the interview.
All right, I'm going to keep it short. I'm an ex-investment banker, ex-TV producer, ex-TV reporter. I've done the whole circus. And luckily for me, the universe guided me towards preventive healthcare. And we started Prana as a brand about 7.5 years ago. We've completed one cycle, right, around the universe, if I might say, because it takes 7 years, right?
Yeah.
And in the last 7.5 years, we've treated about 5,500 patients from 64 countries who walked through the door, come to the clinic, done treatments. And we set up an academy during COVID to teach people preventive healthcare so that they don't have to wait to get sick to come to us. And we started teaching them Ayurveda, gut health, mental health, emotional health. We have about 15,000 students from 74 countries. And I've done about 300 plus workshops around the world, 85,000 students. Now, by God's grace, we have about 1.5 plus million followers in 139 countries that's actively consuming our content, which, if I might say, is boring. It is not entertainment. It is hardcore educational content.
But still you got that views, so it's like a great thing.
Which says a lot about what the audience wants, right? People want authentic information. people want to be in charge of their health. They don't want to wait to get sick. They want to preserve their health. They want to improve their longevity. They want to improve the quality of their relationships. They want to improve the quality of time that they're spending with their family and their loved ones. Post-COVID, that seriousness that they have to be in charge of their health. The hospitals are now going to fix you when things go out of control. Because there's only so much they can also do, right? If all of us end up in the hospital for everything and anything, it's going to put a huge stress on that medical infrastructure. What if most of us learn how to preserve our health, prevent diseases? So there's like a huge shift in the psychology of people. Back in the day, it was like, eat what you want, live to the max. Like, this is your last day. You don't have to worry about the consequences of what you do today. Drink, smoke, party, all the way up to early morning hours. That rebellious, crazy attitude towards your own body has come to an end. Lots of people have made conscious shifts post-COVID after losing some of their loved ones, unfortunately. Everybody knows someone who passed away during COVID, right? The pandemic was like a wake-up call. So we've shifted from curative to preventive healthcare life sciences. And that's where you have sciences like yoga, Ayurveda, breathwork, which is pranayama basically, naturopathy, homeopathy. They've all started taking the front seat conversation now. So if you can prevent diseases, you can live a more healthy and a more powerful now. And that shift is powerful. That's where we, I think, fit in. That's what our narrative is as well.
Interesting. But you've also written a book on gut, mind and health. And I'm going to touch upon that in a bit because it was so full of information. I did go through it, and it's just so that it's not an information overload for people who are watching. I want to start with the basics as to what really is gut health and where is the gut really in our body, like where can we find it? Because sabko nahi pata hai ye cheez.
It's nice to get started with the basics, and the book also speaks to a lot of people for the same reason, because it's the book that I wanted to read. I was hoping someone would give me that information to take care of my health and to prevent a lot of diseases. So I said, you know what, I'm solving that problem for myself first, and then for other people who can relate to it. And turns out that everybody and anybody between the age of 6 to 90 who can speak for themselves and who can verbally emote are in a position to learn this information or receive this information. So my youngest client would be like 6-year-old who would be doing her own consultation with me, telling me her problems, taking the diet plan from me, and putting it into place and saying, okay, this worked. Right? So that's how it all started. What is the gut? It's basically a collection of organs. Okay. Now, there's two groups of scientists who define it differently. One group of scientists say that the gut is where food passes after digestion. So that's below your stomach. It's made of your small intestine, large intestine, and the colon. Another group of scientists say that everything from the mouth, esophagus, stomach, small large intestine, colon, even the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas, anything that contributes to the process of digestion, absorption and assimilation and elimination is part of the gut. So everything from the mouth to the colon is actually part of your gut now. That's what another group of scientists say. And when you look at what comprises of the gut, right, it's all your organs, but it's also the microbiome that lives in the gut. So you have oral microbiome that takes care of your oral dental health. It also takes care of how you digest your food, how much saliva has been produced, whether you're going to have halitosis or bad breath or gum health issues or cavities and caries. It's determined by the pH level in your mouth. And the microbes, whether they're good microbes or bad microbes. Then you have the microbes in your small, large intestine, right? That's a thriving environment for them to live. And we're constantly feeding them every day the kind of fiber, prebiotics and probiotics that they need to nourish and flourish, right? Now, the gut microbiome has a mind of its own. It impacts your mental health. It impacts your emotional health. Because your serotonin and dopamine is also produced in the gut. Your emotions are stored in the gut. A large part of your memories are also stored in the gut.
I thought serotonin and dopamine comes from the brain. That's
really.
not true?
75 to 90% of your serotonin comes from the gut. So when you eat a box of chocolates, you naturally feel happy, right? You feel charged. You have this nice, rich, dark cocoa. Your gut releases serotonin in response to the good foods you've eaten. Right? So if you're going to have, alcohol or any kind of junk food, your body can release some amount of cortisol because it's got stress. That can lead to inflammation. So it might give you the temporary sense of pleasure when you taste the food, but the minute it enters the gut, you start feeling sluggish and fatigued because your body is unable to break down that complex deep fried food. Then that indigestion leads to inflammation. It can also lead to leaky gut syndrome. Then it can lead to skin issues and toxic blood, oxidative stress, free radicals floating around in your body, right?
Yeah.
So your cortisol can also come from the gut. Your serotonin and dopamine can also come from the gut.
Got it.
It's called the second brain for a reason.
Yeah. I think it's more or less becoming the primary brain for the body,
Absolutely.
because your brain is not in your control anymore. But your gut can be with the right food that you intake.
Yeah, and think about it. Where does your intuition come from? Comes from your gut?
Yeah.
You have a gut feeling or a heart feeling or a brain feeling?
Gut feeling.
You follow your gut instincts?
Yeah.
And you're always right when you listen to your gut? Or do you listen to your brain and heart when making important decisions?
Yeah.
Be it about your relationships, your life partner, be it even about your business or personal life. You don't rely on your logical instincts or your heart feeling. You rely on your gut feeling, the instincts, the intuition that comes from the gut. That indeed comes from the gut, because scientists have proven that the gut has more neurons lining its wall than there are neurons in the brain.
Oh, is it?
Yes. And what are neurons? Neurons are your sensory organ, right? I mean, not an organ. They are your sensory nervous system. They allow you to sense things. The neurons are firing all the time, reminding you of your past memories. The neurons are firing and communicating messages from different parts of the body to the brain. So there are more neurons that experience sound, taste, smell, touch, emotions in your gut than there are neurons in the brain. So when you feel anxious, scared, excited, happy, nervous, butterflies fluttering in the stomach, you feel it here in your gut. And that emotion is decoded by the brain.
Oh.
The brain does not store emotions because it doesn't have time for emotions. The brain is a logical organ that does what you tell it to do.
Correct, correct.
But because you're not in charge of your brain is doing whatever the heck it wants to do. Okay? Your brain has like 60,000 thoughts per day, running like wild horses inside your head. Okay? And God forbid you don't control it. It's going to wreak havoc. And then you're going to have anxiety and stress and clinical depression, bipolar disorders and such, unfortunately. Right? Because we're not in control of our mind anymore. Right? But where can we get our control back? By controlling your gut first. And that gut, your gut health has a neurosis that directly connects the gut to the brain.
Okay.
The vagus nerve that sends messages from the gut to the brain. So if I clean up my garbage bin, which is the colon, and then I clean up my kitchen, which is the gut, where the fuel and energy comes from, the rest of the house will start falling into place.
Yeah.
Your bedroom, your study room, your meditation room, your dining hall, your entertainment room, these are all ancillary. The two most important parts of your house, number one is the bathroom and number two is the kitchen. Okay? If you have a functional bathroom and a functional kitchen, you can live in any house without furniture.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I moved into my new apartment, I did not want the furniture to come in first. I wanted to be the first one to enter the house. I had a functional kitchen, a beautiful kitchen, and a functional bathroom, multiple bathrooms. And I just had like 2 big mattresses and some basic cupboards and lots of plants. So I got my oxygen, I got my sunlight, I got my nutrition, and I got a good functional hygiene system in place. Sorted?
Yeah.
So the same thing with your body. If you take care of your colon health, make sure you're eliminating toxins on a daily basis. If you take care of your gut health, which is the fuel engine of your body, which supports all of the critical organs, which absorbs nutrients from the food you're eating, and then supports your brain, heart, liver, kidney, intestine, colon, and all of these organs with the right nutrients, then you're sorted. Then this contributes to your cognitive health. How? The gut is called the second brain. When the gut is done digesting food, it starts contributing to your brain by firing thoughts, by allowing you to experience emotions, by contributing intuitive skills, intuitive abilities for you to make better decisions.
So like when you're hungry and you don't eat and fast, the gut doesn't have anything to process. What happens in that case?
There are 2 ways, okay? You're hungry, but you don't eat food. And you haven't experienced that fasting mechanism. You'll end up having a headache. you'll end up having hunger pangs, burning sensation, acidity, reflux. Because the hydrochloric acid in your stomach is being produced, the liver's producing bile, the gallbladder is also fired up. And they're all actively waiting for food because you've spoiled them by feeding them every 3 hours, every single day of your life. A second group of people who are seasoned in the process of fasting. When they experience hunger, they will use the power of the mind to communicate to the gut to not produce the hydrochloric acid anymore, because today you've chosen not to eat food, you're just going to drink water. So that day is dedicated to cleaning up the system. The excess stomach acids that have been floating around, the undigested foods, the heavy metals, the toxins, the unhealthy microbiome that needs to be flushed out. So you're setting aside a day, be it an Ekadashi, be it a Monday morning fasting, or be it, Amavas, full moon or a no moon night. It could be any religious day which is based on the lunar calendar, the position of the moon.
How does the position of the moon decide your date of fasting?
On a full moon night and on a no moon night, your body's digestifier is very weak.
How come?
Your body is 75% water. Your brain is 85% water. The moon impacts all water bodies in the planet. The waves in the ocean rise up to almost 10 to 11 feet on a full moon night. Now imagine an ocean, a body of water that is so massive can respond to the gravitational pull of the moon. What do you think our body is doing? We're but tiny creatures, right? And we do not have control on our blood circulation, on our homeostasis, on our heartbeat, on our lungs contracting and expanding. We have zero control on our internal organs. They're at the mercy of the gravity of Earth, the gravity of the moon, the quality of sunlight, air, water, nutrients we eat. They're not something that we control. We only control our breath and our thoughts and our intentions, right? So the moon's gravitational pull starts causing the water fluids, all the water bodies and the fluids in our body also to ebb and flow. So usually on a full moon night, paramedics in New York City expect the maximum number of freak accidents.
Yeah.
Because there's so much happening in your body and your mind. A lot of thoughts from your subconscious mind start surfacing into your conscious mind. Okay. Most of your memories are in the subconscious mind, which is 95% of your memories. And 5% is in your conscious mind, which allows you to navigate through the universe. Right now, all I need to know and remember is that I'm having a conversation with Radhika and I'm talking about gut health and Ayurveda and stuff. I don't need to remember all my childhood memories at the moment because they're not relevant to the conversation. On a full moon night, a lot of your memories from your subconscious mind start surfacing into the conscious mind.
Okay.
Because of the pull of the gravity. These are subtle energy forces. Your memories, your thoughts are also forms of energy that your body is holding and its aura. Right? They're all held in the form of energy. Everything in this world is an energy.
Yeah.
This is an energy particle. This is an energy particle, even though it has no life of its own, but it's still got an energy particle.
Yeah.
Right? This is an energy. I'm an energy. And different cells in my body are different energy frequencies. Your memories and thoughts are also different energy frequencies. So the frequency and the gravity of the moon causes memories to surface from the subconscious into the conscious mind. When there's such an active pull of memories and thoughts and emotions, at that point in time, your gut is interpreting, decoding, deconstructing all of those emotions and digesting emotions. Right? At that point in time, you don't need to eat food.
Okay.
Simple rule. Indigestion of food leads to bloating, gas, flatulence, constipation. Indigestion of emotions can lead to anxiety, stress, depression. Indigestion of thoughts can lead to furthermore anxiety and overthinking, right? Indigestion of any sort is unhealthy for your body. So on a full moon night, when you have so many thoughts and emotions that are surfacing in your conscious mind, you don't want to have indigestion of food and indigestion of thoughts. That's a great day for you to go on a fast.
Got it.
Not consume solid food. Stay on just water. If you're unable to, stay on just water, you can have some simple fruits that are easy to digest, that are not stressful for the gut. You can have boiled vegetables. You can have some sauteed greens. Or you could probably just have, one kind of a simple carb, not too complex. You instead focus on meditation to sort out your thoughts, your emotions and memories. So that's a better way to function.
And when there is Amavasya, no moon day, then?
On a no moon day, usually our metabolic fire is mand. That means there's no metabolic fire. So our metabolic fire directly corresponds to the position of the sun and the moon. When the sun rises, we have a small breakfast. When the sun is at the peak, our metabolic fire is at the peak. When the sun sets, our metabolic fire also sets. So usually at night, we don't have a metabolic fire. So on a no moon night, we literally have no capacity to digest food. So it's better to go on a fast
Okay.
and just drink some boiled water if you're hungry. But if you're someone who's unable to fast, make sure to eat all day and wrap up by 6 o'clock. Don't eat food after sunset.
Yeah.
Let your body go into a deep state of rest. No moon night is also a great time for you to go into a state of deep, restful sleep, the deep REM sleep.
Yeah.
That's also a great time, for you to rest or meditate if you know how to meditate. Right? Both these lunar cycles are powerful. So if you look at most of these religious movements, we have this equinox, the spring and the summer and the winter, right? We have the summer solstice, the winter solstice. On these days, usually a lot of people do fasting. Yogis, they do a lot of fasting on this day. A lot of religious movements were built around the change in seasons and the change in the position of the planet and the moon.
Okay.
On a harvesting day, we have a certain set of rituals, spring, summer, winter. We have a certain dietary protocols as well to follow.
Yeah.
Right? It's called Ritucharya in Ayurveda, seasonal regime.
Okay.
Right? And then we have daily regime as well, Dinacharya. Different times of the day, we do different activities to sustain our body's health. So if you start engaging in all of this, you'll be able to plug back into your motherboard, which is Mother Nature. You're basically aligning this piece of nature back to its creator.
Got it.
That's Mother Nature.
And why is it said that you must have your last meal before the sun sets? Is there any side effect in the long term if you have your meals later after the sun has already set?
So, number one rule, you don't want to go to sleep with a pile of undigested food in your gut. What happens when you sleep with undigested food in your stomach and your gut? They start rotting, putrefying, releasing gases all night. Then you wake up in the morning, unable to go to the bathroom. You're constipated because the food has not got digested. And then you're going to eat some fresh food, which is now going to get contaminated with the undigested food in your system. They start reacting. That undigested metabolic waste now reacts with the fresh food, creating more gases, more byproducts, leading to more gut health issues. And then you have unclear thoughts because everything is a mess out here. You need to first clean up your kitchen and your bin before you cook some fresh food the next day. You cannot cook food over all the rot and waste from the previous day. Simple rule. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when you eat too late in the night, your gut, digestive fire and metabolic fire has already come to a state of rest as soon as the sun sets. Your body's not producing digestive juices. There's not enough hydrochloric acid. There's not enough bile that the liver is producing because the liver has chosen to go into a state of detoxification. So it's not focused on digestion. So your body simply lets the food sit idle in the stomach. And over a period of time, you'll notice that people have this bulge, this belly. Anyone with a belly, the waist, the stomach circumference being greater than your waist is a sign of undigested food, metabolic waste, heavy metals, unhealthy gut microbiome that's releasing a lot of gases. There's a lot of fermentation happening of undigested foods also. And it could also be a lot of body fat, that the body has decided to store here in order to protect your heart. Because they don't want free fat flowing around.
Correct.
So you're either overeating or you're not eliminating enough. And then that bulging belly starts impacting your heart, your cardiovascular health that is. It starts impacting your cholesterol, your blood pressure. It starts causing sugar spikes because there's a lot of waste sitting inside. Okay, it starts triggering more insulin resistance. It starts affecting your pancreas, which is where the insulin is being produced. It starts affecting your liver, which is the largest detoxifying organ. Now it's overworked, overloaded. Your kidneys get affected. Your colon gets affected. Your overall gut health gets affected. It leads to leaky gut syndrome. Then it leads to skin disorders. So it's a cyclical effect. You're like a hamster caught in a wheel. That's why we say break the trend by not consuming foods after sunset. That's one thing you can start with. Don't worry about intermittent fasting and personalized nutrition, Ayurvedic concepts like Bath, Pitta, Kapha. That will come in its time. You don't have to worry about the bigger picture. Start with something that is feasible for you now. Simple thing you can do as an office goer. Carry your lunch and dinner to work. Eat your lunch at 1. Take a break at 6 o'clock again. No company will forbid you from taking a break. At 6 o'clock, you open your box, have your soup, have your sauteed vegetables and a small portion of carbs. Make sure you eat something at 6 o'clock. And then do another hour of work and meetings if you want to. And then when you come back home, You use that time to spend quality time with your family.
Yeah.
You're not stressing about making dinner and eating it at 9 in the night.
Mm.
And then you go to bed feeling stressed because you didn't have enough quality time with your kids, with your
Yeah.
partner, with your in-laws, with your parents. You know, everyone's stressed, the husband, the wife. And then you wake up feeling stressed even more, unhappy, unsatiated. And then the corporate burnout happens.
Correct.
And then people are like, quitting their jobs, wondering, if this is it for them, moving towards the countryside. Not everybody has a luxury to move to the countryside,
Yeah,
unfortunately. Some of us had the luxury, right? But then what about others? So if you want to stay away from that corporate burnout, simple rule, carry your lunch and dinner to work, have quality time with yourself and your colleagues, and then come back home and give undivided attention and quality time to your own family.
Yeah. So you think the people who live up to like 100 years of age today have been following these rituals of eating early, going to bed early, or can they also live up to that kind of an age, after having some of the junk foods and processed foods?
It's an 80-20 rule. Okay, you have to live a little.
Yeah.
Okay, if I see my niece or nephew eating a bag of chips, I can't stop them because if I do, it's going to get worse. They're going to seek more of it. So then I let them have it and I take even one chip out of their packet to see what it tastes like, so that my body remembers what it is. And then my body remembers how to detoxify and eliminate that as well. Obviously, I'm not going to eat a whole bag of chips. If you see most of these people who've, the centenarians who've lived up to the age of 100, they're very peaceful. Most of them in the blue zones have known to live with a plant slant. The diet is plant slant. 95% of the diet is plant-based.
Okay.
Only 5% of the diet has animal-based products like some amount of dairy and butter and fat. Okay? All of them are physically active. All of them have positive social connections and a community, a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose and ikigai in their life.
Yeah.
All of them have restful sleep. They sleep well. They don't sacrifice their sleep over work, right? And all of them stay away from negative vices. They don't go overboard with alcohol. They definitely don't smoke. Even if they drink some amount of wine, they do it in a very progressive, controlled manner. Even if they have caffeine, it's always before lunch.
Yeah.
Never after 11, right? Their coffee is always in the first half of the day. So they do indulge in some amount, as I've seen, but they know where to draw a line. And they live in accordance, in alignment with Mother Nature. They do not defy the rules of Mother Nature. They don't go on these night shifts, for days and months and years together thinking the body can withstand it. A lot of people who've done night shifts usually age very fast.
Yeah.
Right? And then they feel the need to stop and go back to a normal life. You cannot sustain on a night shift all your life.
But what happens in countries like Antarctica when sometimes the sun is not out at all? It's always white. And in places like London when the sun sets at 4 o'clock sometimes and then it's all dark.
You have to
How do you
acclimatize.
maintain?
People who live in the polar regions, in the Arctics and the Antarctica, these people have acclimatized really well. They have a diet that is suitable for that particular kind of lifestyle where they don't have sun for 6 months and they have a lot of sunlight for 6 months. They know how to secrete melatonin at the right time, even despite having broad daylight. They know how to create dark spaces to fall asleep. Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, there's one particular place I remember far up north where they don't have the concept of time. Nobody wears a watch.
Correct.
And they work out, do laundry any time of the day. They could be doing laundry at 3 in the morning. They could be playing sports at 2 in the morning because there's no sense of time there. For 6 months, they celebrate daylight. Right?
Yeah.
But they've learned how to acclimatize within that parameters, within those, triggers, within those variables. Right? We are living in India, a tropical country. We don't need to eat foods like those people do in harsh winters. When we're going overboard with the wine and the alcohol, it's going to burn your system up because it's a tropical country. It doesn't require fermented foods excessively. And then you're going to have a bloated belly and a gut and you wonder where. You have to live in accordance to your season. So they say eat local, eat seasonal and live global.
Yeah.
You need to acclimatize to your environment, to the microbiome in your environment. You need to consume local foods rather than having imported foods.
Yeah.
But you still need to respect the cycles of nature.
But since we are speaking about foods and you were telling me before the interview started that you've studied combination of foods, like what works, what doesn't. So that's like a very interesting topic and so many people don't know what harmful consumption are they doing
Yeah.
in their daily lives? So, I want to do like a quick Q&A with you on this,
Sure.
as to if you could tell me one food that we're all eating in our daily lives that's secretly destroying us, but we're not aware of.
I think the number one unhealthy combination that I've seen people do, at least those who consume dairy, is the milkshakes and smoothies.
Smoothies not healthy?
Not at all. Not at all. It's the worst thing for your gut. Multiple reasons. Number one, a smoothie is cold. It diminishes your Agni, which is your Jataragni, the digestive fire, which is your source of life. So you're diminishing your source of life. Number one, it's cold. Versus a warm porridge or a bowl of khichdi or a bowl of soup or sauteed vegetables. It's warm, tempered with spices that stimulates your metabolic fire and stimulates your Agni. Number one, it's cold. It's dead, right? It's got no energy. Number two is the wrong combinations that's going with it. So people think, okay, let me make a protein shake and put in everything that I want to eat. I'll put in a handful of spinach and some berries and cherries and maybe 2 dollops of yogurt to it and some chia seeds and flax seeds. That combination is so unhealthy. Your body struggles to absorb nutrients from that combination. Each one hinders the absorption of the other.
Okay.
For example, when you're having iron, you can't have calcium. Okay, it hinders absorption of iron. So if you're having a lot of spinach, you cannot be having yogurt with it. Okay, spinach has a lot of oxalates, which binds with the calcium that can lead to kidney stones. Number two, spinach and leafy greens should never be consumed raw. So when you put it in a protein smoothie, a shake, you're literally blending that raw spinach leaf, which is not good. It should be blanched to reduce oxalate level. It should be cooked and tempered with spices for improving the bioavailability of nutrients. And then when you're mixing dairy like yogurt with berries and cherries, that's also a very unhealthy combination. I've heard a lot of people, a couple of my clients from Greece, who've said that excessive consumption of Greek yogurt with berries and cherries and strawberries has actually led to a lot of skin allergies for them. Reason being, berries, cherries, strawberries, apples, bananas, all of these are a rich source of vitamin C, ascorbic acid, malic acid, oxalic acid, fumaric acid, tartaric acid. These are different kind of fruit acids that reacts with the casein and the animal-based protein found in lactose in dairy. And it starts causing the animal protein to curdle and break down. Just like how lemon causes the milk to break down instantly. All fruits cause milk to ferment in our gut over a period of time. So you might have an apple milkshake right now, but 45 minutes later it has started fermenting in your gut. It might not be instant, the damage. But then that cumulative damage builds up over the years and becomes like a skin disease because there's a lot of toxicity in your blood that's floating around. So number one mistake that people do is smoothies and fruit milkshakes. That's like the worst combination.
Why is fruit and milk a bad combination?
So like I said, fruit is a good source of ascorbic acid, right? So if you put lemon in your milk, it starts breaking. Any fruit, be it an apple, be it a banana, be it a berry, cherry, strawberry, when you put it in milk, they start breaking and fermenting. So you don't want to make beer inside your stomach. You could be drinking beer. Imagine if I gave you a glass of milk to drink and then I gave you a glass of lemonade to drink. Would you touch it?
No.
You instantly know that this is a wrong combination.
Right.
And if I drink milk now and then have a glass of lemonade, it's going to break in my gut. It's going to cause leaky gut syndrome. It's going to cause that curdling effect. It can lead to bloating and indigestion and even IBS symptoms, irritable bowel syndrome, where you run to the washroom because your lining has been ruptured. Right? You become very sensitive to that combination. The same rule applies to any fruit and dairy product. Be it a fruit with milk, a fruit with yogurt, or with cheese, or with butter and buttermilk, right? It has the same impact. A lot of people do this cheese platter with lots of fruits and cheese on the side. In moderation, your body can withstand the damage. But when you do this repeatedly over a period of time, you end up triggering skin diseases.
Oh my God. I mean, so many restaurants, their mocktails menu, if you go to see, it's full of milkshakes.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering now that how does everyone not know that it's such a bad combination to have?
I think lots of people are becoming conscious now. Like I said, people are realizing that they're the author of their own health and disease. Nobody else is responsible for the diseases in your body. 90% of the diseases are due to internal, malfunctions and errors in your plate of food, right? Only 10% is external. But when you go to most of these restaurants and cafes and, these new age plant-based restaurants also, unfortunately, their menu of smoothies and milkshakes is so exhaustive and extensive. It's probably the worst thing. I remember buying a smoothie blender in the beginning, when it became like a
Trend.
rage, right? I remember it was
Yeah.
like 8 years ago I bought my first smoothie blender.
Huh.
And I used it maybe twice and I was like, something feels off about it. After having that blueberry smoothie, I'm feeling slow.
Huh.
I'm feeling sluggish. I'm feeling fatigued. My energy levels are not the same. And I'm literally struggling to get up because that smoothie has diminished the Agni, which is responsible for your digestive fire, your metabolic fire, immunity, and your energy levels. All of that has got diminished, and there's like this layer of mucus being produced in your body because of that cold food.
Huh.
Okay. Now, mucus is like the slime on a machine. The machine will stop functioning over a period of time when there's too much slime.
Correct.
Imagine that green slime that kids play with.
Huh.
And you put it on a machine. The machine's not going to function. Your body produces a lot of mucus on a daily basis, like quart of mucus, right? But that's protective layer because it traps all the unhealthy bacteria to flush it out of your system.
Yeah.
But then if your body produces more mucus than your body can handle, it can lead to your intestines, your colon, your kidneys all getting clogged and becoming sluggish. It can lead to a lot of bronchial health issues, cold, cough, sinus. Your oxygen level goes down because of that, right? Your whole body energy level starts dropping when there's more mucus in the body.
Yeah.
Have you noticed on the day you have a cold or a cough, you just don't feel energetic.
True.
And that day you just have to rest it out.
So even like cold pressed juices and salads which are cold are not recommended to eat?
Yes and no. I'll tell you why. Cold pressed juices, some combinations are very potent and powerful for reducing inflammation in your body and cleansing your intestines, your gut and your colon. For example, celery juice, when cold pressed, is the most potent for reducing inflammation in your body. Cucumber juice helps in flushing out the excess sodium in your kidneys and preventing high blood pressure as well. Okay. Then you have cilantro and parsley, one of the most powerful combinations Mother Nature created to flush heavy metals out of your system. 85 to 95% of your mercury, cadmium, lead and heavy metals get flushed out with cilantro and parsley. Then you have banana stem, the stem of the banana plant. It helps in flushing out kidney stones, gallbladder stones and makes you drop weight like crazy.
Yeah?
Totally. Okay?
I'll start having it now.
Yeah. And if you have a bad cough or a bad cold, you can have an orange juice on that day, although it's a fruit juice which causes a sugar spike, which we're not a big fan of, right? But if you're weak on immunity, then you can do a glass of orange juice or a carrot juice with a pinch of black pepper and cinnamon powder to prevent the sugar spike, right? You can also make a juice from wheatgrass.
Okay.
It's one of the most powerful. Moringa, spirulina. You can have these cold pressed juices. Any other juice outside of this is a bad combination, especially spinach and kale should never be juiced. Because they should be blanched in hot water, right? They're rich source of oxalates, right? Cold salads, I'm not a big fan. The body doesn't like uncooked foods, it leads to more work for the body. The body has to work harder to raise the internal body temperature, to break down the, plants. And plants don't want to be eaten. So when you eat them raw, they're releasing phytochemicals inside your body. They're releasing gases in its attempt to kill you. You must have heard of this, plants want to kill you. There's an entire documentary on it, which is true.
Yeah.
Plants don't want to be eaten. They're listening to our conversations right now. If you're having a positive conversation, they're going to flourish. If you're having a negative conversation, it's going to hurt them. So they're extremely sensitive to energy, right? And to harm, to warn off predators, rather, a herbivore that's about to eat them, they release gases. So the freshly cut grass that you smell, people love the smell of the freshly cut grass.
Yeah.
That's actually a phytochemical that the plant has released.
Okay.
To warn other plants of a predator because they can't pick up their roots and run. So they release gases. And that gas can be so confusing. It can confuse the predator like a caterpillar to eat each other and themselves rather than eating the plant.
Okay.
So the caterpillars become cannibals because of the presence of that phytochemical. So imagine that's impact on the plant, on the caterpillar. On the human level also it has an impact, but a slightly lesser one. It'll lead to bloating or gas or flatulence or indigestion or a sluggish digestion. But if you have a bowl of sauteed vegetables with herbs and spices, okay, or maybe tempered a little bit, or if you have, say, boiled vegetables or steamed salads, your body loves it.
Okay.
Because you've released all the phytochemicals outside your body and then you're consuming that half-digested food. Now the bioavailability of nutrients has improved and your body can quickly absorb all the nutrients.
So like people who are having those green leafy vegetables without cooking it and just like putting it as a salad, all those like raw cabbage, carrots,
Yeah.
all of those is not good for the health.
Ayurveda doesn't recommend it. Okay. Now, a lot of people who have a hardcore meat-based diet,
Huh.
they don't have enough fiber in their diet. They end up experiencing a lot of constipation symptoms. So then they have to go the other extreme by eating something raw, leafy green, right? Then they wrap the piece of meat with a raw leafy green. But in
Okay.
Ayurveda, we say go on a plant slant as much as possible because, plant slant is your longevity food, number one. Number two, it doesn't cause inflammation. It reduces inflammation. Animal-based diet brings a lot of diseases in our body.
Yeah.
Animals get cancer, blood pressure, diabetes, thyroid. Plants don't get cancer,
Hmm.
right? Plants don't get thyroid, PCOS or PCOD or infertility,
Yeah.
right? And number three, animal-based foods takes longer to digest. Plant-based food takes lesser to digest. So if you're already on a plant slant, you can improvise your health by eating cooked foods rather than eating raw foods. Raw foods are given on a very specific condition. See, if you're diabetic, you're under a naturopathy care, then that raw food diet works really well for a diabetic patient because the body has to work harder to
Yeah.
digest it. But even there are only certain number of foods that can be eaten raw. You can eat cucumber raw. You can eat some amount of tomatoes raw, but a cooked tomato is far more potent than a raw tomato. You can eat cucumbers and carrots raw, right? You don't want to eat an aubergine,
Yeah.
a brinjal raw, right? You don't want to eat spinach and kale and romaine lettuce leaves raw, even though they seem to be like a good source of fiber. If you can make a soup out of them, you can improve your absorption of nutrients far more. Because remember, there's a difference between herbivores and us.
Yeah.
That one slight difference is the fact that despite us having the same length of intestines, the same kind of teeth, the same kind of digestive system, the difference is animals like cows and goats chew their food for 8 hours per day.
Yeah.
60,000 jaw movements per day.
Hmm.
How many jaw movements or how much time do we dedicate to digesting and chewing our food? 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, 20 minutes in the evening if you're lucky. That's not enough to digest food. So we want food that is pre-digested, cooked really well. That has been softened with a lot of moisture, tempered with a lot of spices.
Yeah.
When we have a cooked meal, our gut doesn't have to work so hard to digest, absorb, and assimilate nutrients. That's done really fast. Then the gut, which is empty, is available for your cognitive health.
Right.
So evolution of human beings is such that when we learned how to grow our own food, we stopped being a nomad, we stopped being a hunter and a gatherer. When we learned how to cook our own food, the human brain grew in size because the body had more energy for cognitive stuff
Yeah.
rather than digestion. If you see wild animals, if they have a big hunt and they eat a big belly of food, they can literally not move for 3 days. They'll be literally lying around, unable to move.
Yeah.
We've moved away from that primitive habit of literally eating and resting.
Yeah.
Rest and digest. We also have other qualities in us, right? We rest and digest. We have fight or flight mode as well to run away from predators.
Yeah.
We have this, short bursts of cortisol that helps us perform really well. We've moved away from being a nomad, a hunter-gatherer, to being an agriculturist. We're the only species in the animal kingdom that grows its own food and cooks its own food. So, fire was invented by mankind for a reason. So please cook your foods.
Yeah.
Don't eat them raw.
Yeah. I think the bottom line is that boiled food and water both
Yeah.
is great for human health.
Any day. And remember that, the surface of plants is also home to a lot of parasites,
Yeah.
right? And there's also insecticides and pesticides. So you wash them really well and then you cook them well because, parasites also thrive on the same source of nutrition as we do.
Yeah.
And by mistake, we end up consuming foods like, say, uncooked capsicum or uncooked aubergine that has a lot of seeds. Those seeds are similar to tapeworm eggs. Sometimes they look the same.
Oh.
And you could end up eating tapeworm eggs instead of eating seeds, which can then create havoc in your gut. And those tapeworms, when they hatch from those eggs, they can travel in your bloodstream all the way up to your brain, deposit in your brain, triggering a lot of health issues like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, or, involuntary movement of your limbs and finger. You've seen people have those. It can lead to epilepsies and blackouts.
Yeah.
There was a girl who kept collapsing, and when they finally checked her brain, they found a lot of tapeworms in her brain.
Oh shit.
And it's very difficult to remove them. They start eating different parts of your brain cells.
Oh my
So
god.
cooked food is always a safer alternative. It prevents diseases like E. coli and several other parasital infections. Cooking is a way to preserve our health and humanity.
Yeah. I think this tapeworm episode is quite shocking.
Yeah.
Have you seen that as your own client case?
I've seen it in my niece, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Yes. She kept having epilepsis.
Huh.
And they finally took her to this village doctor in Rajasthan.
Huh.
And the crazy thing that they did to her is they introduced a medicine through one nostril and blew really hard. And the tapeworm came out of the left nostril.
Oh, shit.
That
Crazy.
was causing epilepsis. It sounds gross, but imagine she didn't have to go through a surgery.
Yeah. But the doctors here were recommending surgery otherwise.
Yeah, if you have tapeworms in your brain, then you either have to take really strong medication to shut off different parts of your brain to kill that tapeworm, which also then has a side effect on the other parts of your brain, or you have to go through a surgery, which is very dangerous, and the success rate is very, very slim.
How did you find this village doctor?
Not
remotely?
me. I just heard about it from my cousin sister, because we were discussing epilepsis in the family, and there's a lot of kids in our family who had epilepsis. There's either neurological damage that happens at the time of birth, especially the forceps babies, where they use a forceps to pull the baby out of the mother's womb. Sometimes the pressure is too much. It can damage some nerves and pinch some nerves. That can cause epilepsis. There could be, postpartum depression that the mother has passed on to the child, or there is, fetal distress that the child went through at the time of delivery, or there's tapeworms in the brain. All of these are triggers for epilepsis.
Oh.
And that's, unfortunately on the rise for a lot of children. A lot of children are now born with neurological damages. Autism is on the rise. 1 out of 4 kids have been diagnosed with autism in the US. And it's going up, by the day. The numbers are crazy. Again, damages from either overabuse of drugs and vaccines. They found that kids in the US especially are exposed to almost 60 vaccines by the age of 5. And that's equal to 1,000 milligrams of aluminum in all of those vaccines put together. That aluminum is hugely damaging for the brain. So a lot of children that were born normal after a series of vaccines ended up showing autism symptoms.
Oh.
Right? And luckily, I've also seen some success stories of, parents who took their children completely off the grid. They put them on a plant-based diet. They took them through this hyperbaric oxygen therapy where they gave a lot of oxygen supply to the brain. They put them on essential oil drops like zeolite, which helped in pulling heavy metals out of the system. They put the child on juicing, cilantro and parsley to pull the heavy metals out of the system. And the child went from being autistic medically to not being autistic anymore, as pronounced by the medical doctors.
Oh.
Right. So I've seen both ends. I've seen also a lot of children ending up in that situation. And I also see a lot of children coming out of that. But it takes a lot of effort and energy. So that's why I say prevention is always better than cure. Do what is needed, how much is needed at the right time. Don't overdo anything. You neither have to be an Ayurveda fanatic or an allopathy fanatic. There's a fine line. Allopathy is very powerful when it comes to acute conditions like a heart attack or a fracture or an accident. It brings you back to life. Right? But once you've come back to life, you have to go into preventive healthcare life sciences to prevent any side effects and damages and to prevent this episode from repeating.
Yeah.
You can't keep going back to the hospital. If you've had a heart attack already once, you need to go back and change your diet and lifestyle. You can't keep going back to the hospital expecting them to fix you. Their job is done. Their job was to bring you back to life.
Yeah.
Now it's your job to fix the rest of you.
To keep that life alive. Yeah.
Exactly. Right?
You said that, children in the US are given about 60 vaccines until they reach the age of 5. But those vaccines are preventing them from the diseases, right? So
there are some that are very potent and powerful. Like, the polio vaccine, for example, in India had a very powerful impact on the society and the community as a whole, right? It helped us prevent polio. But there are a lot of other vaccines that are probably not necessary.
Is it like which ones?
I don't want to mention the names also because, I don't want to sound like an anti-allopathy, anti-vaccine person. I'm just saying that there is a sense and sensibility. How much vaccine does a child need? There are some life-threatening diseases that requires us to introduce a vaccine maybe because you want to prevent, further spread of the disease in humanity on the whole. But there are certain that your body's immunity can withstand and fight.
Yeah.
The more effort you allow your immune system to take, the better your immune system will be.
Yeah.
It's like a muscle. You need to exercise it.
Right? And less spoon feed it.
Yeah. Like, a child playing in the mud, playing in Mother Nature, getting their hands dirty, playing in the rain, playing in the muck, a child getting cold and cough is actually a sign of the child building its immunity. And you have to allow the child to do so, right? But if you keep injecting the child with antibiotics every time the child gets sick, you're destroying and wiping out the gut microbiome, which then is a huge part of their immunity, right?
Yeah.
A lot of kids, after having several doses of antibiotics, have become so weak and fatigued that they're not even able to digest a simple meal, right? Because there's no gut microbiome left in their gut.
Yeah, but this cervical cancer is doing a lot of rounds lately because every other woman is getting diagnosed with it, unfortunately. And there are vaccines which are coming up now for the prevention of cervical cancer, and women nearly to the age of 25, 26 are recommended to take that vaccine.
Yeah.
Do you really think that vaccine is as needed as it's being pressed in the media? Because people are like, you must take it. It's just like a polio, They're like, if you don't take it, the chances are very high of you getting it. What is your view on that vaccine?
What is the root cause of cancer?
I think
instead of addressing that, we are approaching disease from a symptomatic approach. We're trying to suppress the symptoms and prevent a disease rather than addressing our lifestyle and diet that is causing the disease. The number one root cause of gynecological health issues is the dairy products that we consume. Milk, yogurt, cottage cheese, butter, buttermilk, all the processed cheese, blue cheese, yellow cheese, and God knows what all, right? I love ghee, so, I'm not going to talk about ghee here. Dairy products, unfortunately, comes from an abused industry where the cows are kept in factories, not on farms, with machines attached to their udders. They're artificially inseminated every year, forced to give birth versus giving birth twice in its lifetime. This cow is probably giving birth every year in its milk-producing years. Then the cow is injected with growth bovine hormones. It's called GBV to produce more milk, 4 to 5 times the milk that it should produce. So if you look at their udders, if you look at their mammary glands, they're swollen. They're swollen and they're like full of milk, obviously, to make profit. The cow is then injected with antibiotics to keep diseases off. And the cow has been separated from its calf. Because they want to produce more milk and not waste any milk on the calf. That cow is going through so much distress, trauma, confinement, torture. Do you think that cow is going to give you happy, healthy milk?
Not at all.
The cow is releasing hormones, estrogen, antibiotics, pus, blood, inflammation, cortisol into that milk. And when we drink that milk, what is going to happen to our body? The rush of antibiotics is making us antibiotic resistant. The rush of hormones from that dairy-based product is leading to an imbalance in our hormones, leading to PCOS, PCOD, fibroids, cysts, endometriosis, infertility, gynecological disorders. So instead of addressing our root cause of the problem, we are now creating a vaccine on this end to suppress the disease. So here you have unhealthy nutrition, that's cruelty-based. Here you have the human body, and here you have the curative healthcare life sciences. But if you could prevent the source of poison, problem solved.
Yeah.
Right? At least a majority of the problem is solved.
What do you think is the biggest cause of any kind of cancer?
I don't want to sound controversial. Animals get cancer, plants don't get cancer. The more animal-based foods we eat, the more we're exposing ourselves to diseases like cancer, thyroid, diabetes, blood pressure, PCOS, PCOD. In fact, research has shown that when you consume excessive red meat and processed meat, the risk of colorectal cancer goes up by 27%. The risk of cancer also goes up by the consumption of fish.
Oh, is
seafood, yeah, because of the microplastics in it.
Oh.
Right? The risk of cancer also goes up with dairy-based products because of all the hormones and the antibiotics found in it. Animal-based foods increases your risk to a lot of diseases. The rule that, the first rule that most scientists follow, be it lifestyle medicine in Harvard or the gut health and microbiome experts at Stanford, with whom I've had some exposure and studies with, be it yoga, be it Ayurveda, naturopathy, homeopathy, the first rule is switch off the tap, turn the tap off. Stop consuming poison, stop consuming diseased foods, stop consuming foods that are cruelty-based. They're called tamasic. They create inertia, dullness, lethargy, and diseases in your body. Instead, you switch to a sattvic diet, which is a plant-based diet. Plants also have basic emotions. They also feel pain to a certain amount. That's why we pray to our food and thank the plant for giving nourishment to it. But plants are designed to give fruits and vegetables and continue its life. They're designed to provide food. Animals are not designed to provide nutrition. When you kill an animal for meat, that life is over. But when you take fruit from a tree, like mangoes, the mango tree continues to live for a few more years. It doesn't affect when the mango becomes ripe, it anyways falls off the tree. The tree has been designed to provide nutrition for all the animals, birds, and human beings. Animals have been designed to balance the ecosystem. But when we break that ecosystem, that balance, and when we start working against the nature of our own body, then we're creating room for diseases, And the argument would be like, oh, we were eating animals during the cave age. But we don't live in caves anymore. We've evolved and come a long way. We use smart computers and smartphones now, right? We use more of this and we rely less on this.
Yeah.
We've shifted. So you don't need to eat like a caveman anymore, which is like an omnivore diet or a carnivore diet, right? You can move to a herbivore diet or a herbalist diet, where you have a lot of herbs and spices that sustains life, that prevents diseases. People are now gung-ho about Ayurvedic herbs. Ashwagandha, Shatavari, they've all become like poster child. Why? Because they know it's a promised land. They know it's a promised herb. The Quran, the Bible, the Jain scriptures, the Hindu scriptures, they all speak about herbs. They say that consume herbs because it has been given to you by God, by the universe, to balance and offset diseases in your body.
Can these herbs be consumed in the form of gummies, which is becoming the talk of the town lately? Every single brand is coming up with a new packaging, new flavored gummies, including ashwagandha gummies. I mean, are they even good for health? Because as a consumer, you're left with so many choices that you end up choosing at least one because they are right in front of you. Should you even consume gummies?
I feel like something is better than nothing. Okay?
But gummies are good, or is it artificial?
I'm not a big fan of it. Recently, I tried a pack of gummies that was organic and plant-based, and it was like vitamin C boosters. It was literally just amla and ginger put in a gummy thing, right? As long as it doesn't have gelatin, which is animal-based ingredient, I'm okay with it.
Which brand was this that you consumed?
I can't remember. It was an organic brand at a health workshop where they put up stalls, and I literally bought a packet of food from every stall that was on display because they were run by these passionate entrepreneurs. They were organic. They were cottage industries. They were not large-scale FMCG companies out there for profit, but they were out there for passion, for reason, for purpose. These are the brands that I don't mind consuming from. These are your boutique brands that exist in your neighborhood.
Any names that you can recollect?
So I do buy a lot of produce from the farmers market, which is run by Ms. Kavita Mukhi in Bandra. She basically curates farmers from around Maharashtra to come and sell their vegetables, their fruits, and a lot of these artisans who make their own products. So anything from that market for me is a green flag.
Okay.
Anything from that market. And I feel every city should have a farmers market where these brands can come together, set up a small stall and sell their products. And you could spend one Sunday visiting these markets, buying their products and having a little picnic in the sun, teaching your children how to touch their food. So there was another interesting thing they said, you should always show your children where the food comes from. Take them to a farm, show them how the food is being grown. But will you take your child to a butcher house to show them where the food came from? That's why a plant-based diet always wins.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's no cruelty in it. And you can be proud of where it came from. You can proudly show to your kids saying, this is where your food came from. You can take your children farming, blueberry picking, let them dig their own carrots.
Yeah.
Right? And you're creating gut health for them, through all those microbes from the soil that's going into their body. Right? But will you take them to a butcher house saying, hey, this is where your food came from? It sounds cruel.
I think if you did, people will stop eating non-vegetarian food. So I think it's good to take people there.
I know a lot of friends of mine who saw the cruelty in the industry and chose not to consume meat.
Yeah.
And they were hardcore meat eaters. They couldn't live without their steak or, without their chicken. They lived off it. And something shifted in their mind. Overnight, they just went cold turkey.
Yeah.
Even I couldn't do that. They went cold turkey from hardcore non-veg diet, which was 90% of the diet, to becoming vegan. Now, vegan has become like a huge culture, like a tribe, right? And I'm an Ayurvedic vegan, which means there's no dairy-based products in my diet. but there's ghee from a cruelty-free brand in moderation when I need it.
Hmm.
Or there's ghee from my grandfather's Gaushala, where the cows are well taken care of,
Yeah.
right? So that's the only place that I would consume it from. So there is a huge shift in a tribe that is growing. It's these conscious human beings, I would say. If you go to West Coast and East Coast in the US, vegan culture is crazy.
Yeah.
You go to places in Germany and Scandinavian countries, you'll find a vegan restaurant in every part of the town,
Hmm.
right? And in fact, there is a town I remember in Germany, I'm forgetting the name of, which is a 100% vegan town. They don't sell meat at all out there.
Oh.
The entire town is plant-based, vegan. You'll
Wow.
find those, hubs even in parts of Japan, in Spain,
Yeah.
in Greece. These are your blue zones, your longevity zones.
Hmm.
They love plant-based diet.
Bombay
Harvard
should
is-
also start having one now.
Yeah, and
High
look
time.
at it, it's not just Indian Eastern sciences that's subscribing to this knowledge, right? Even Western medicine is subscribing to it. American Heart Association, American Cancer Society, Harvard, Stanford. Look at their research. It's all pointing towards plant-based diet. I'm not saying vegan, I'm saying plant-based diet, whole food plant-based. WFPB. Whole food means farm to table, not factory to table,
Yeah.
not packaged and laced with preservatives and toxic waste that is a neurotoxin, right?
But people who are vegan, what is their reason of catching diseases like cancer? Because you said mostly it all comes from the animal-based products that you consume. But somebody who's been on a vegan diet for so long, there must be something that's affecting their emotions, which is leading them to produce those free radicals that lead to cancer.
Absolutely.
So, why do you think vegan consumers are also prone to cancer in today's times? What's the reason?
Like you said, emotions. So, number one I said was an animal-based diet. Number two is the microplastics in our diet, which comes from the tea bags, from the plastic bottles, from the plastic containers. And number three is the heavy metals in our soil, in our water, in our air that we breathe. Like you could be plant-based, but you could be sitting next to a factory that's emitting all kinds of toxic gases in the air. And number four, at a subtler level, the energy is your emotion, right? Ayurveda goes one step deeper and it said something which really hit me. It said that diseases are triggered due to accumulation of past negative karma, which could be from this lifetime or the past lifetimes, triggered by the position of the planet.
Oh.
So when I started going down that rabbit hole, it amazed me how much astrology, karmic science, energy science, emotional sciences, natural sciences are interlaced. At one point in time, everything blends and becomes one. And that's where you find answers, right? So I've also met a lot of women and men, mostly women, who've been on a plant-based diet or at least a vegetarian diet.
Yeah.
And they were cancer survivors. They've beaten cancer and then they come to me, to change their diet and lifestyle, and they never want to go back to their old lifestyle. And they have a lot of suppressed emotions. So science actually found, a lot of scientists have proven that women are more prone to autoimmune diseases like thyroid, Hashimoto's, PCOS, PCOD, because they're constantly suppressing their emotions because they don't know how to express themselves. And that's probably one of the biggest diseases, And if there's anything that I've learned in my life, I used to be a very private, a very introvert kind of a person with good public speaking skills. I would speak about the things that I liked, but I was very private about my emotions. I could suppress my emotions for years together. And that always led to some kind of a new disease. And, every time I tried to analyze the root cause of my disease, through my meditation or through my introspection and inner journey, it would begin with nutrition, sleep, exercise, toxic environment. And the root cause was always an underlying emotion from either the childhood or your adulthood, unresolved conflict in your relationships, be it with your parent or a partner or with your future children. It's always an unresolved emotion or conflict. We store negative emotions, different organs in our body.
Yeah.
Like anger, we store it in our liver. Grief in our lungs.
Okay.
Heartbreak in our heart. Right? Guilt and shame in our pancreas. Okay? Kidneys has another set of negative emotions in it. Different parts of our body, we store different negative emotions. And that weakens our chakra, the flow of energy, the flow of happiness, the flow of ki, which is the energy in Chinese terms.
Yeah.
You look at traditional Chinese medicine, you look at Ayurveda, you look at naturopathy, homeopathy, they all speak about energy at a deeper level.
Now, what are chakras really? Everybody speaks about chakra healing as a
Yeah.
concept these days, and it's
Yeah.
become more of a trend than a understanding of the concept.
Yeah.
So why don't you explain us as to what really are chakras in our body, and
Yeah.
what does it mean to really balance them out?
So, your chakras are like the vortex of energy. Like, imagine you have this amazing video game or a toy. They run on batteries, right? 2 batteries, 4 batteries, 6. Your chakras are like the batteries in your body. They are vortex of energy, okay? And energy has to flow smoothly from your bottommost chakra to your topmost chakra for you to feel alive. When this energy flow is obstructed, it can lead to diseases. Now, your root chakra, affects your spinal cord, your colon health, your prostate health. And it can even cause cervical cancer for women, right? Your root chakra corresponds to your ability to feel stability, security, which is your basic need in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What's your basic need? A sense of security, safety, that you're not going to be attacked by a predator. You need a sense of longevity, that I will live to see tomorrow. Your root chakras, corresponding to that particular emotion of safety, security, stability. When that's affected, it can lead to a lot of spinal cord health issues, tailbone issues, prostate health issues. And then you have the other chakra as you move upwards, which corresponds to your pancreas and gallbladder, right? And here is guilt and shame. When you store guilt and shame excessively, it affects your pancreatic health, which can also lead to diabetes.
Oh.
Okay. Then as you move further up, you have your solar plexus chakra, right? This is your energy chakra again, right? Your ability to express yourself also exists here. Solar plexus would be further up. And then you have a chakra near your heart, your emotions. You have a chakra here, the third eye. Then you have the crown chakra, your ability to connect with higher divinity. So different parts of your chakra correspond to different emotions. And if you keep trapping emotions in your body, that chakra gets weak. Like, for example, you have too much grief. It affects your, the solar plexus chakra as well as your chakra in the middle of your heart, Anahata chakra. Then you have your Vishuddha chakra, throat chakra. If you keep suppressing your emotions and your voice, you don't express yourself well, it can lead to thyroid.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Your third eye chakra, Ajna chakra, corresponds to your ability to connect with reality. But if you keep having these hallucinations about or illusions about life, that you deserve more and this is not how it should be, you keep running away from reality. That weakens your Ajna chakra, your intuitive skills as well. Right? And your crown chakra is connected to divinity and God.
Who invented these chakras? Like, how did this come about?
We didn't invent anything. We didn't even invent AI. We didn't invent ChatGPT. We didn't invent the internet or the chakras. They always existed in the paradigm of universe. We only discovered their existence. They always existed in the parallel of the universe. There is a concept that past, present, and future continuously exists. It doesn't end. The past is a continuous line of existence. The present is a continuous line of existence. The future is a continuous line of existence. All three are happening simultaneously as we speak. And using meditation, using the time machine that we will discover one of the days, we can travel back into past or travel into the future. Right? So you're not inventing anything. You're only discovering the potentialities of the universe. Everything exists in the universe. Everything exists in the Akashic records. So when human beings who do a lot of meditation and chanting, who go into a deep introspection or a state of shunya, zero thoughts, zero emotions, they tap into those Akashic records, which is the library of the universe, and they access and download that information. Be it chakras, be it Ayurveda, be it yoga, be it pranayama. How did we invent yoga? We did not invent yoga. We discovered yoga. We discovered pranayama. We discovered the human body, the miracles of the human body, homeostasis, the heart, liver, kidney, intestine, brain. We didn't know this existed. Just because we didn't know it existed doesn't mean it didn't exist. Atoms and protons and electrons always existed. But until we discovered it, does it mean it didn't exist? Everything always exists. So AI was asked this intelligent question. How did human beings invent AI? And AI said, you did not invent me. I always existed. You only discovered my potentials and abilities now.
Yeah.
Right?
So our future is also planned.
Planned in a way, but also you have the power of choice every single day, every single second and minute. Because humanity is such that no man is an island. What you do impacts me. What I do impacts you. Right? The cars we use, the pollution we create. We cannot escape the imprint, the carbon imprint and the footprint of other human beings. So we are moving towards the same direction right now. Global warming and mass destruction and death and disease and maybe new inventions to save humanity. We're all moving the same direction. But as human beings, we have something called the power of choice. You can choose your intentions. You can't choose your thoughts. You can't choose your emotions. Your emotions are a direct reaction to the events that are happening outside, which are provoking a certain emotion inside of you. You're not angry all the time. But an event or an outward experience triggers that anger inside of you, right? Your thoughts are not in your control most of the times. They're just rampantly going like wild horses in your head. But you can control your intentions for the day. So I could wake up in the morning and that intention that I create could be, today I want to create peace and happiness for myself. My thoughts align with that intention and starts giving me more reason to be peaceful and happy. But if I wake up in the morning saying, I'm going to put up a good fight for this, my thoughts will align with that and give me all possible pros and cons and areas to fight on and to support my intention and my need to fight.
But why does this happen that, when you have everything in life and still you feel unhappy? Why does that happen? Because so many people are facing this issue lately. Like, I also wonder that, like, why are you unhappy for? And then I think it's something which is deep-rooted much more than what we see on the surface. And since you've studied energies so much, I want to understand this from you.
It's a gap. This is your reality. These are your expectations in life. Your reality supports you having this particular career, this amount of materialistic resources, be it cars or homes or money or opportunities. Your reality supports this. Your energy supports this reality, rather. So my energy allows this particular reality to exist. But in my mind, I have this illusion that I'm not getting what I deserve. You're getting exactly what you deserve. You're exactly where you're meant to be to learn the lessons that you're meant to learn. But you have this illusion that you deserve much more and that this is your expectations which are set really high. But you're not matching the energy of these expectations. If you want to be living at this, you need to be vibrating at this energy frequency, but you're still vibrating here. There's a
How do
mismatch.
you vibrate at the higher energy frequency?
If you've created an intention, something as simple as like, what's this guy? I'm forgetting the name of this actor. Oh, good Lord. The really funny guy in Hollywood.
Hollywood, me.
Yeah, I'm forgetting this guy's name. He manifested his career. He would sit at the same spot every night, looking at a hoarding, a billboard in LA, and he would say that I manifest $10 million by this year. And he wrote a check to himself and he put it in his purse. A $10 million check addressed to himself. And then a few years later, exactly the year that he expected to manifest it, he manifested that money. He got that check for his movie.
Oh, the exact amount.
Yeah, exact amount, $10 million, right? Now, this guy not only set an intention, manifested his expectations, he also matched it with that kind of hard work and energy, right? You can't be a couch potato and say, I want to become a millionaire and a billionaire. It's not going to happen, right? So, you need to match your intentions in terms of energy, in terms of hard work. You can't be sitting and manifesting things and expecting the universe to serve it to you on a tray. That's a lazy man's dream.
Yeah.
Manifestation has to be married with action, with focused, calculative action that leads you to your destination. It's your job to do the hard work. It's not the universe. That's why, we have this powerful quote in, Bhagavad Gita, Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachan. Do your duties, do not expect a reward. And then whatever you get is such a sweet victory because you did not expect anything. Your reality is this, but you set your expectations much lower, and everything that reality gives you will be like, oh my God, I didn't expect this. It's such a pleasant surprise. You didn't expect a chocolate cake on your birthday, and your friends brought you not just one, but maybe 2-tier chocolate cake. That's, plant-based and healthy and organic, and it tastes delicious and it's guilt-free. You can eat 2 big slices of it. You didn't expect it, but you got rewarded for putting in the hard work of building your relationship with your friends, pleasing them, showing up for them when they need you, sweetening your relationship with them with the right conversations, right memories, right experiences.
But then how do you manage being ambitious with setting the right expectations? Because if you don't have expectations, how will you have a goal to work towards?
That's a good way to look at it, okay? Now, when you're building a strategy, you set milestones for yourself, short-term and long-term milestones. After that, don't sit and daydream about that project. Get to work. Get to work and have that razor-sharp focus on only that one project till you accomplish the milestone that you've set for yourself. Challenge yourself, not the universe. The problem with many people is they have these expectations, but they don't have a roadmap to arrive at that destination. So when you create a strategy that this is how I'm going to arrive at this destination 3 years from now, 10 years from now, then the universe favors you. The universe always favors those who work hard. Luck favors those who work hard. People sometimes say, oh, he's just lucky. She's just lucky. The right things happen to her at the right time. No, it's because you showed up at the right time with the right amount of hard work, the right portfolio of accomplishments, the right kind of qualifications and education to match that opportunity that was showing up. Right? You don't have an opportunity for a tech role showing up for a person who's maybe a doctor or an artist. But a tech opportunity shows up for a person who has a tech background and an accomplishment and an educational qualification to match it. So you need to have a certain set of skills and strategy in place and a roadmap in place to match that expectation, that destination, that milestone. You need to do the hard work.
Yeah. Have you ever had any clients who've come up to you and said that, everything is going well in my career, in my life, but I just don't feel like living?
Oh gosh, that's so sad,
because
right?
some people face this issue that they have everything that they could imagine, like the family, the work, the relationships that they want, but they still don't have this urge to live and live happily. And why do you think that happens?
There's a powerful word in Japanese culture. It's called ikigai. A reason to live, a sense of purpose. So a lot of people might have the perfect career, the perfect marriage, husband or wife and kids, the perfect globe-trotting lifestyle, enough riches and luxuries. And yet they feel the sense of vacuum because they feel they're not enough. They feel they have not created enough impact on this planet. They want to feel valued. They want to feel like they matter. A lot of women, usually feel that when they're homemakers, out of no choice. They feel like, am I doing enough? Do I matter? Does my existence impact anyone? Men also have started feeling that at the top of their careers, right? That's when ikigai plays a role. Ikigai gives you a sense of purpose. What are you good at? What does the world need right now? Okay? And what makes you happy? And can it be substantiated with money? Like, the work that you do, can it be paid off using money? Then that becomes your sense of purpose. When those 4 concentric circles interlink or merge or blend, that meeting point is your ikigai. You're doing something that the world needs right now. So you feel valued, you feel wanted, you feel needed. Human beings love to belong, love to be wanted.
Yeah.
Okay? And you're also doing something that feeds your soul. Okay? And you're really good at it. You can't just, one day wake up and say, I want to be a tennis player. But if you're not good at it, it's of no use having ambition and purpose in life. Right? You're also very good at it. And you can get paid for it. So it's not an NGO activity. I mean, lots of respect for the NGOs that run. But at least you're not having to worry about where your next meal is going to come from and how you're going to pay your bills and pay your rent. So you want to have a sustainable purpose that allows you to exist in the paradigm of this materialistic world but without harming yourself in the process. A lot of time we're making money, but chipping away parts of our health to
Yeah.
make wealth. And then we have to spend all that wealth to get our health back, which makes no sense. That's where that rat race comes to an end. The minute you have a disease, I mean, you could have 1,000 problems before that. But the minute you have a disease, you have only one problem in your life. Your disease. You're like, I just want this disease to go away. I don't want anything else in life. Right? So don't wait for that situation where you lose the most important virtues and values in your life, which is your health, your family, your relationships, your core values, your principles. What do you live for? Who do you exist for? Having that sense of balance is very powerful, which a lot of people in the corporate world should start taking out time for.
That sense of belongingness is something that makes you want to live,
Yeah.
both in the personal and professional world.
Absolutely. Unless you're someone who's completely detached from the ways of the world, you don't want to transact with the world, you are so satiated and content with your humanness, and you've decided to become a sage or a monk and live off in the mountains on just clean water, air, and bare minimum food. Bravo then, if you can get to that level.
Yeah. But, and before I get to a nice rapid fire where I have a lot of questions.
I hope so.
Yeah. I want to ask you some stories on your clients because you deal with so many people.
Yeah.
And for us to get insight into your work, stories are the best way to get a customized. So I want to start by asking you as to what is the most unique case of a client that you've come across in terms of their health issue? Like you were like, how can this even happen, but it happened in reality. And how did you give them a solution to it?
This one story really hits me hard also because it's a recent story. It's this one boy from the US. I think it's Wisconsin, if I'm not wrong. Young boy, 10-year-old, and his parents showed up for the consult, and he had a very severe, aggressive stage of alopecia.
What's that?
Alopecia is where your hair starts falling off. So he was completely bald. There was not a single strand of hair on his head. Not a single hair follicle was left open. Like you can't see a single black dot, which means, it's closed and he may not get his hair back. His eyebrows fell off. I don't think he had eyelashes either. And he was plain white when I met him. He was 10 years old. But he was so wise beyond his years because of his suffering. He could see through human beings and he could immediately sense something that's not true, something that's false, something that doesn't appeal to his higher self. He was very spiritual as a boy. And when he came for the consult, I broke down. I absolutely had a meltdown that day. I had to switch off the video and I had to tell the parents, I'm so sorry. I'm just like sobbing like a child right now and I don't know why. Because the way that boy stared into my eyes, he literally was saying, you guys are responsible for my suffering. I suffer because of you guys, which is true. Like he lost his innocence, his childhood charm. His best days of his life was lost in running to hospitals and doctors and clinic and getting injected. And he had very severe case of psoriasis where he would bleed even while he was sleeping.
Oh my God.
Right? There was severe case of psoriasis and alopecia and very weak gut health. In this boy's case, then we went back and did the consultation later in the night because I just couldn't get myself to talk to him. Later in the night, I had like an hour and a half long conversation with, the client. Usually it's like a 30-minute conversation, but this time I had to convince them that this is the right path and there is hope. We put him on a high plant-based diet, well-cooked foods, lots of khichdi, but also tons of ghee in his diet, which is, a good source of butyric acid. And it helps in lubricating the GI tract and cleansing the system of heavy metals and constipation symptoms. Once the constipation symptoms are cleared, the colon starts functioning, the poison starts coming out of the body can heal and repair damaged tissues, muscles, and nerves. And I'm not kidding you, we didn't hear back from the parents for about like 2-3 months. We kept writing to them saying, I hope everything is okay. 3 months later, when I saw the boy, I was so pleasantly surprised. He was smiling, he was laughing, he was giggling. He was fighting with his parents that I'm not going to have another dollop of ghee. He was literally having 15 teaspoons of ghee in his diet and ghee on his skin. His bleeding stopped. He got color back in his face. He was again having those, chubby pink cheeks. He had the redness under his skin, like the blood was rushing back to his face. And I said, you know what? In no time, we'll get you your hair back as well. Your crowning glory. We'll get you that as well because you've come such a long way. And that for me was like the happiest moment, to see that child smile again. Forget the medical parameters, looking at the medical records and saying, okay, everything is great, the liver and the gallbladder and the colon. That's great, for your work. But to see that child smile again, that for me was the biggest victory. And I see this day in, day out, trust me, We've seen about 5,500 patients in the last 7 years, right? And they're from 64 different countries. They come to us from around the world. They fly down from Chicago, New Jersey, Lebanon, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore. They literally book the tickets and fly down. We had patients come down from Brazil, which is like a day-long journey. They would book their tickets in advance, 3 months in advance, come down because they feel that hope. And that placebo effect is very powerful when married with the right science, right medicine, right diet, right sleep, right support system.
How do they discover you from across the globe?
So, most of them, I'll tell you what, are cultured, educated audience. They have been on our social media platforms consuming content over the last many months. So it's not an overnight discovery for them. They've already consumed a lot of content from our social media pages. They've already made a lot of lifestyle changes. They've already seen a lot of improvement in their health. And because they've experienced that relief and health, they make that decision to fly down because they want to be with us in person. And we tell them quite often, you don't have to come to us. You can go to Kerala, you can go to Goa, you can go to all these places that have these fancy retreats that you can stay at. We don't have accommodation. They still want to be there because they feel that energy, that calling, that connection. You want to always go back to your source energy, right? And they feel like we were their source or the first source of Ayurvedic education and knowledge.
Yeah.
For me, that's a human connection that's beyond explanation.
Was there any unsolvable case in your career so far where you couldn't find a solution to a client's problem, but then later on you figured out what could be done?
There were some women, I remember, who kept coming back for detox again and again and again. And I was like, what is this obsession? Why do you keep coming back? They actually loved that tender touch and that tender loving care, where the therapists and the doctors are giving them undivided attention and love. They were not sick, but they loved falling sick because they got undivided attention and love from their partner, their husband, for that particular period of time.
Are you serious?
Yes. And it was not a disease. It was always like, oh, I feel sick. I feel fatigued. Why is this not going okay? Da, 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 da. It was always a feeling of being deprived that led to them feeling physically sick. And they would come back for treatments again and again. And they would feel so happy, at the end of the treatments, coming out smiling, because they got that undivided attention from the therapists and the doctors for that 1 hour. They were the center of attention. So human beings love to belong, but human beings also love to be wanted, to be needed, to be loved, to be cherished, to be celebrated. And that I felt was like, a weird case, medicine couldn't solve it.
Yeah, it's something very
it's a
emotional.
Psychological thing, right? It's like, okay, you know what? You need to build your community. And some of them would keep coming back because they were just addicted to seeing us. And we had to tell them, stop. You don't need us anymore. But it was just a psychological thing in their head, that they need to be there. And only as long as they have access to us, they feel good. Which is something we needed to break. It's like cutting the umbilical cord.
How did you break that?
We cut the umbilical cord. We told them, you don't need us anymore. Go find a new hobby. Go for pottery. Go for farming. Go horse riding. Or, go take care of animals and animal rescue farms. Or do new projects with your kid. Do something.
Yeah.
Shift your energy to something more positive that builds, that's constructive, that takes you forward.
So many humans just don't have any purpose in their lives and they don't know what to do with the breaths that they're taking, the lives that they're living. It's really, really heartbreaking to see sometimes.
Yeah,
that they just don't know what to do.
We're all like a powerhouse of energy, right? You need an outlet for your energy.
Yeah.
Now, some people have these amazing grand plans for their career. They become like these world famous musicians or comedians or artists and actors and dancers. sportsmen. It can be anything, or you could end up becoming like a really rich person in your community. You don't have to have tangible goals. It could also be an intangible goal sometimes. It could also be something as simple as, I want to be one of the best mums my children could ever ask for. You're building the future generation. You're building the future of this country. If you feel a sense of gravity, purpose, contentment in that role, why not? I think the most powerful role in this world is the mother's role.
Yeah.
Right? If you can be an amazing mother that's available, that's present, nobody can match that.
I want to also touch upon your story personally, because you've also seen so many ups and downs, and here you are, all successful, talking to us.
I don't think so.
But you know, I was just watching some of your other interviews, and I saw you talk about your marriage. You know, you had an abusive marriage at the age of 24, and you had to literally get rescued out of it. Tell me a little bit about that. And I'm asking more so on the cases because a lot of people face these issues in their marriages. They don't know what to do. So might be your story could inspire them to take like an action towards it and raise a voice, because for them, they don't know what can be the way out.
You know, I mean, I'm not trying to motivate women to go get a divorce, no. But I'm asking women to stand up for themselves and be the voice. You know, I got engaged when I was 21, actually. Got married when I was 22. And just when I turned 24 is when my grandfather rescued me out of that marriage.
But why was it a not good marriage?
I mean, you know, the guy was in it for the money, for my father's wealth. And obviously I brought wealth, which is dowry. So there was a lot of dowry harassment. You know, even in this day and age, from an educated family, it's shocking, right? There was a lot of dowry harassment. He was a gold digger. He just wanted the money. He didn't care for anything else. Narcissism, gaslighting, emotional, verbal abuse. And it was leading towards domestic abuse. Just when it started becoming threats of domestic abuse was when I walked out. I said, you know what? If I allow him to hit me once, and if I continue living in that house, that means I'm okay with that behavior. That means I'm allowing him the opportunity to hit me again. And that's when I walked out. I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm not going to stay here to watch you diminish the human value that I carry, to chip away that, you know, virtue and value that God gave me. Who are you to, you know, determine my value in life? And I never looked back since then, you know. When I walked away, it was probably one of the hardest decisions not because I had any temptations to continue that relationship. I had zero attachment, zero temptations. It was the hardest decision because I had nowhere to go after that. You know, my parents were not supportive of my decision. They were not willing to take me back. My grandfather took me with him to his home in Bangalore, and I started my life from there. So I did not have financial support. I did not have money to begin with. I did not have even my wardrobe. I walked away in the dress that I was wearing. So my mother gave me 2 pairs of, you know, pajamas, and I was literally alternating with the 2 pajamas for 1 month till the divorce decision came through. The society formed a kangaroo court against me, my neighbors and my relatives, and they would hold meetings for several hours every night for several days to decide on the course of my future life, forcing me to go back to an abusive marriage because I was setting a bad example to other women, to their daughters who were suffering their marriages silently. And I was like, I will be the woman who breaks those barriers. I don't care if I have to suffer. And I started from scratch. I started with a job that gave me like 14,000 rupees per month. I had too much ego and pride to take help from anyone at that point in time. And, you know, fast forward, I have this amazing team now of empowered women who live their dream life. And, you know, it makes me so happy to provide a platform for them to live their life out. You know, like I told you, we have a team of 40 people, but all my CXO positions, my team leaders are women. And they are leading the team with so much compassion and empathy and love and kindness for themselves and for the boys and girls who work on the team. That for me was the biggest win. Anything and everything that I did not receive is what I want to provide these girls. That hospitable environment, that support system. I'm with you. Go chase your dreams.
No, it's actually a very good thing that you're doing now. because only a person who's gone through so much can give so much.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to be a lot,
Yeah. There's one rule, okay? If you've suffered in your life, let not your suffering go for waste. Convert your pain into something beautiful.
Yeah.
An artist will convert his pain into this beautiful mural, sculpture, painting, and the rest of the world stands there amazed, absorbing all that beauty. Can you convert your pain into beauty? Can you convert your pain into something constructive and beautiful? Into poetry, into a song, into a story, into a book? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
For me, it was like all the pain that I went through is not for me to feel vengeful. It was for me to remember that I don't want another girl to go through what I went through.
Yeah, in fact, this NVIDIA CEO says, and he said that in one of the Harvard conferences maybe, and it went viral over Instagram, that, I wish that students suffer and bear pain in their lives to achieve something bigger and more purpose driven, because if you don't go through any sufferings, you are just leading a life of like luxury or materialistic goals, which will never give you a higher calling, which will impact your decisions and choices in this world. So I think it's a very good point that you've made around sufferings, that how it actually leads you to create something much bigger for your life and for others' life.
It's like a caterpillar, that comes out of the cocoon to become a butterfly.
Yeah.
You have to go through that pain, that transformative phase, that suffering, to become something more beautiful.
Yeah,
so
truly.
Let your pain become something that's beautiful, that the world can celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've also worked with Juhi Chawla as your client. Tell us, how did you get her in? Because a lot of people who are into this industry have these goals of working with celebrities for the branding and the name. How did you create that for yourself? How did you attract people like Juhi Chawla?
So, I never went seeking celebrity clients. We do have, if I might say, a lot of accomplished people who've come to the clinic, right? Be it Juhi Chawla or Juhi ma'am is probably one of the top-notch, clients that we really look up to for the grace and, kindness that she has bestowed on us. You see people like Dev Patel of Slumdog Millionaire, or even Anjali Tendulkar, or Huma Qureshi, Masaba Gupta. They've all come and experienced Ayurveda. So we never went knocking on doors. They came seeking answers for their health. They came seeking authentic information on Ayurveda, and we facilitated that. That's all we did. So it's not like we created or invented Ayurveda or we discovered it. No, it was already there. We just facilitated that availability of that information, that knowledge, that healthcare tools to these people. And Juhi ma'am is probably one of the most important people that I really am grateful to, because she is so unconditionally kind, generous, non-materialistic, humble, that she teaches me a new lesson with every message that she sends. It's so humbling to read her messages. Every message comes with so much gratitude and humility and thankfulness. It's like, oh my God, a woman of that stature, that accomplishment, that amount of glory that she has experienced and success that she has created for herself can be so humble. What are we so proud about? It makes you drop so many layers of ego and pride and, ground yourself. I love working with people like Juhi ma'am, obviously. And it's not like she gives us too much work. She just once in a while consumes content. And she came to us saying, I want to learn Ayurveda. She did one of our workshops, our masterclass. And since then, she's hooked onto it. She's like, if anything interesting comes, please keep sending it to me. And that's how, that community grew for us. We're not fancy healthcare clinic. We're a tiny 700 square feet clinic, but it's just that we're so tech heavy in terms of our reach and impact. We have such diversity in terms of the number of clients and patients we've been able to interact with around the world and number of students we have around the world. We're literally a tech-forward company using healthcare education as a way to communicate and impact lives.
Yeah. Is there any new Ayurvedic technique that you've discovered recently that you're using in your clinic?
I found a lot of parallels between Ayurveda and modern medicine. The modern medicine has an expression of genetic disorders, gene expression of diseases. It says that your body's genetic makeup predicts what kind of diseases you're inclined towards, right? So this is one particular study that I'm trying to get into, and it's called Ayurgenomics. Ayurveda says there are unique body types, 7 unique body types, and each body type is inclined to certain kind of diseases and has a certain kind of personality, mental makeup, physical makeup. And modern medicine has also started exploring that same dynamics. And there's a lot of similarity. Like, for example, modern medicine has this one experiment that they did. They found that in mesomorph body type were inclined towards metabolic disorders. Endomorph body type were inclined towards lipid metabolic disorders. Okay? And in Ayurveda, a mesomorph is a pitta body type that is inclined towards metabolic disorders, which is high Agni, which leads to inflammation, leaky gut syndrome, IBS, burning sensation, acidity. And an endomorph, which is inclined towards lipid metabolic disorders, in Ayurveda is the kapha body type that is inclined toward lipid metabolic disorders like diabetes, cholesterol, thyroid, tumors, cysts, obesity, heaviness. All the heavy diseases are lipid metabolic disorders. So modern medicine has found it. Ayurveda has been speaking about it for the last 5,000 years. All we're doing is taking this ancient science, translating it in modern language and modern lifestyle, matching it with research-based science.
And how do you know what's your body type like?
So you
and
can
what are you prone towards?
Yeah, you can do an Ayurvedic consult with any good Ayurvedic doctor. They'll check your pulse, and these are seasoned doctors who know how to read your pulse, and they'll tell you whether you're a kapha body type or a pitta or a vata body type or a dual body type. Okay, that's the most authentic way of finding your body type. Now, we also have a lot of apps and softwares and technology tools that you can place on the pulse, and the machine reads your pulse and tells you what body type you are.
Oh, which apps are these? Can you name a few which we can use?
These are actually not apps. These are medical tools, diagnostic tools. I don't know the name of it, but there's one diagnostic tool that, I don't know the name of the brands, but these are diagnostic tools that helps you find your body type. So if you go to a high-end Ayurvedic clinic, they will have these tools. There's a human touch, there's a machine touch, and then you can also do your self-diagnosis on the internet using something called as Dosha Quiz, which is available on our website. It's called www.pranabydimple.com. You go on the Dosha Quiz. There are a set of 25 questions you need to answer about the kind of nails, skin, hair, eyes, dreams, hunger, appetite, digestion, metabolism you have, and colon health. Based on the answers you've given, it tells you what body type you are.
Okay.
So that's another way of finding it.
But is that accurate enough to what you would get otherwise?
Diagnosis is 50-50 because you're diagnosing it based on your experience and biases. But if you do an Ayurvedic consult with a doctor or use the machine, the diagnostic tool, there's no bias there. And the doctor has experience of having touched 10,000 plus pulses. And they can easily identify and diagnose your body type.
Yeah. But I'm curious to know as to how can a pulse determine your body type? How can a heartbeat say so much about you?
So it's actually not your heartbeat. It's your pulse in your wrist, which is literally your blood pulsating. And how is your blood pulsating? In Ayurveda, they say a frog, a snake, and I think the third one is a duck, if I'm not wrong. So a frog would be like a jump like this, your pulse jumps. And a snake would be like this. The pulse just like, rhythmically moves.
Yeah.
It tells you a lot on what kind of body type you have. Do you have a lipid metabolic body type, a kapha body type, or an endomorph? Or do you have a metabolic body type, which is pitta body type, or mesomorph? And then you have a dry pulse, erratic pulse, which is a vata body type, where the pulse is very erratic, So depending on what kind of a pulse you have, it tells you what kind of a body type you have. So if you want to look at it, in a tangible manner, in a physical manner, where you and I can gauge, someone with the thickest body type, thick bones, broad structure, is an endomorph. They have thick bones. They tend to put on weight easily. They struggle to lose weight. Someone with a medium build, that's very athletic. They tend to put on weight easily and lose weight easily. They're a mesomorph body type. Someone who has a thinnest body type, thin brittle bones, dry rough skin, dry rough frizzy hair, dry colon, struggles to put on weight, is a mesomorph body type or the vata body type. So this is a physical way of identifying different body types. You can be a dual body type as well, and you can also be a tridoshic body type.
And which body type is the most prone to diseases?
Vata.
The thinner one.
The ectomorph. Because Vata is dominant in the colon and large intestine, and 90% of diseases happens due to an unhealthy colon.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That always begins with the colon.
Yeah. I'll now just ask you a few questions
Sure.
around different things that we have discussed, but something more interesting.
Sure.
So I was just reading this through one of your researches only, and what you've spoken that fasting actually helps in destroying cancer cells. Is
Yeah.
that true?
Absolutely.
How is that?
So you're depriving glucose for the cancer cells. When you deprive and cut off the fuel supply to the cancer cells, you're allowing your body to go into autophagy, where your healthy cells start consuming your unhealthy cells as a source of protein. Your body destroys its own unhealthy cells by feeding on it. That's autophagy. So that will happen only when you stop feeding your body food.
But how long should you fast for?
Depends, on your ability to fast. You begin with intermittent fasting. You keep your eating window for 8 hours. You do fasting for 16 hours. Then slowly you move on to fasting for 18 hours, 24 hours, 36 hours. Then you do a 2-day fasting. 8-day fasting is one of the most powerful. It completely reboots your immune system. So your immune system completely comes to a grinding halt or dies, and then you rebuild a new immune system when you break your fast.
Oh.
So that's very powerful.
But won't it cause a lot of acidity and bloating?
So there you need to really use your mental strength and discipline. Because if you're someone who loves feeding every 2 to 3 hours, your body will keep producing hydrochloric acid.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to face yourself into that fasting realm. Start with intermittent fasting, then 24, 36 hours. When you're doing that, you're also building your mental confidence, and you're also tuning your body to that state of fasting where it stops producing so much hydrochloric acid.
So is fasting during Ramadan considered as a healthy option? Because it's like you don't eat fully, and then once and for all you just stuff yourself with so much food so as to sustain the next day. Is that like a good healthy thing to do?
It is. If you look at Ramadan and you also look at the Jain community, they also do fasting during the same time called Chamasa and Pajushan. And you look at other Hindu communities, they're fasting for Ganesha. Right? So Hindu, Muslims, Jains, all of them are fasting during the same time. Christians also have Lent period during the same time. It's usually during the monsoons. Monsoons is the best time to go on a fast, right? Because you're avoiding all kinds of unhealthy microbes that are flourishing, and you're preventing diseases. Now, in Ramadan, when the sun sets, you break your fast and you have one big meal, right? And then you don't eat anything the whole night. And then you wake up next morning and have a small breakfast just before the sun rises. So you're limiting your eating window to only those 2 meals in the morning and 1 meal in the evening, right? 1 meal in the morning and evening. And you're letting your body focus on digesting, absorbing, and assimilating the nutrients for the rest of the day. Now, the thing with Ramadan is lots of people end up gloating or going into a state of gluttony. A lot of people, even in the Hindu community, when they're fasting, they end up eating a lot of the fast food, the fasting food, which is deep fried sometimes, or stuff like that, or they break their fast with a lot of heavy foods. Don't go into gluttony. The purpose of fasting is to wean your body off excess food. The purpose of fasting is to not eat a lot in that one sitting.
Yeah.
So let your meal portion be a normal meal portion. Don't overcompensate just because you're going to be not eating for the next 12 hours. That's the problem with any religious activity. When you go into gluttony, when you over-celebrate food, you end up attracting more diseases because of that indigestion and bloating.
Yeah.
So you need to do it in absolute discipline. The purpose is to overcome your taste buds.
Yeah.
And to master your mind.
Got it. And are kombuchas really good to drink, or is it just a trend?
Kombuchas are good for those who are endomorph body type, who have a lot of mucus in their body. Kombucha is acidic in nature because it is fermented. It helps in dissolving or breaking that excess mucus in the body, which is a lipid metabolic disorder. It can lead to obesity and diabetes and cholesterol and heaviness, right? And weight gain. Kombucha is great for them. Kombucha is not recommended for those who are mesomorph body type, who have a active or a high metabolic fire. They tend to have a pitta imbalance, burning sensation, acidity, reflux. It's not good for them. For a vata body type that's already very dry and hyperactive, fermented foods don't do well for them. In moderation, it's okay, like a small portion. So you have to know what your body type is, and then that kombucha or that particular food product can be good. Because remember, one man's nutrition is another man's poison.
Yeah, completely. But what is one poison, if I can ask you, what is that one poison today that we should stop consuming? I know you told about smoothies, apart from that.
I mean, smoothie is a slow poison.
Hmm.
It's not instant. But the instant poison that we all consume every day is alcohol. It is literally drinking acid, a poison that scars your liver cirrhosis, liver cancer, weakens your kidneys, weakens your gut health, kills your gut microbiome, dries up your system from inside, leads to inflammation, leads to diseases, brain fog, mental health issues, breaks relationships, breaks homes, leads to domestic abuse. Nothing good ever came out of alcohol.
How is wine considered as a healthier option? And people say that wine is good for your heart. Have it in,
Moderation.
lesser quantity.
It's
Is it?
not for tropical countries like ours,
Yeah.
where the weather is already very warm.
True.
It's only in countries like Europe and the polar regions like the Arctics and the Antarctica, where there are harsh winters and they don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables. Then they have fermented foods like a kombucha or a kimchi or a sorkat or a pickle or wine to enhance a gut microbiome. So in harsh weathers, winters, you can have a little bit of wine to improve your gut microbiome. It is also a good source of flavonoids. It helps in improving your heart health. But if you're going to have wine in a tropical country like India and other Asian countries, you're only going to cause more inflammation in your body.
And that can lead to what serious disease?
Inflammation is the root cause of 50% of the diseases in our body. Inflammation is basically swelling. Any organ that swells up is diseased, inflamed.
Not good.
Not good.
Is coffee silently killing us?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
Should just stop having coffee every morning?
Coffee is like an electric shock you give to your body. Okay, so imagine you keep giving these electric shocks to jumpstart your body. Rather than letting your body wake up slowly, beautifully, the way it's meant to be. Now, if I had, espresso or like a small shot of coffee for 2 days in a row, the third day I feel withdrawal symptoms. I feel headaches. I feel that craving, the trembling, for the coffee. Caffeine withdrawal is a real thing.
Yeah.
Coffee is a neurotoxic actually. Okay, it weakens your neurological health. There's a woman who had a cup of coffee and did an MRI scan before and after the coffee. And they found that the brain actually shrunk by almost like 15-20%, which jumpstarts your energy levels, makes you all wired and hyperactive like a bunny, and you're exhausting your energy from the next day. So you're basically living on borrowed energy. You're taking a loan to pay off a loan. You're low on energy, so you're borrowing energy from the next day or from the evening. So you're using up your energy levels really fast. And every time you have a hike from the coffee, when the coffee draws off, it's drained from your system, you have a drop in your energy level, which is lower than the starting point. And then again, another cup of coffee, and then it goes lower. So over the period of time, your energy levels are getting low. Adrenal fatigue happens. It dries up your colon and leads to chronic constipation in the long run. And then if coffee has mold toxicity, which is very common because coffee is moist, it attracts a lot of toxicity and mold. That can lead to a series of liver and kidney health issues in the long run. And it's a neurotoxin. It constricts, it's a vasoconstrictor. It constricts your, passages in the brain, giving you that jump start of energy. It like shrinks you and tightens you, like you're on a ride, a roller coaster ride. You tighten yourself and shrink.
Yeah. You said that anything that makes your brain jump and start is unhealthy. So, do even sleeping with alarms and waking up with alarms is very unhealthy for the brain?
In small amount, it is unhealthy because you're not allowing your body to wake up naturally. When the body is done resting, it naturally wakes up. Now my body alarm is such that no matter what time I go to bed, say I had a late night flight, or probably had to watch a movie with friends or family, or I was, socializing. No matter what time I go to bed, 10 or 12 or 2, my body wakes up at 6 a.m. no matter what. Either it's waking up feeling fatigued and exhausted, or it's waking up feeling refreshed. And I usually wake up a few minutes before the alarm rings. So the alarm shouldn't be like an alarming sound. Make it a soothing, peaceful sound. Maybe the birds chirping. A lot of people will probably not wake up. Because the birds chirping. You probably want to sleep more, right? That could be a problem then, right? But if you could, tune into something more peaceful and soothing, and, after the alarm rings, wake up, sit in your bed with your eyes closed. I love to wrap myself in the blanket, the weighted blanket, and I'm just sitting there and experiencing my breath, clearing my mind, meditating, chanting, or remembering the thoughts from my dreams and understanding why I had that dream. Dreams are not a coincidence.
Really?
Dreams are not accidental. Dreams are basically messages from your subconscious mind.
But what happens when you have like rubbish dreams, which doesn't make sense to
Like
the
you're
reality?
flying and there's cars flying and then there's fire.
Yeah,
and you're jumping.
why do we dream of all of this?
You know, when you have a lot of those weird dreams where you're flying and floating, it's vata imbalance, excessive dryness in your nervous system, in your
Oh,
body. When you have dreams of fire and violence, it's pitta imbalance. And when you have a lot of watery, sluggish dreams where you're drowning and stuff, it's a kapha imbalance. So the imbalance in your body also dictates the kind of dreams you're having.
oh.
So when you have pleasant dreams, it means
Huh.
you're in a state of complete balance and harmony.
And when you're having all these terror-related dreams,
It's a pitta imbalance.
what is that like?
Excessive fire in your body, excessive heat energy. You
Oh,
need to get that under control.
wow, dreams do speak so much about our body, yeah?
Absolutely.
I
They're
didn't
an
know that.
extension of you and your subconscious mind.
Wow.
They don't exist outside of you. Your dreams exist within you.
Hmm.
And your dreams are different from my dreams.
Yeah.
They are tailor-made for you. So your dreams are unique to you.
And is dreaming a good thing? Or no dreams is the best thing?
You know, all of us dream. But if you've had sound sleep, you wake up with no recollection of your dream.
Huh.
The deep REM sleep is the best sleep to have, where you're still dreaming in black and white, but when you wake up, you have no recollection of it. Okay, and then in the morning between 2 to 6, you start dreaming in color. Right? Scientists have actually been able to measure that. So it's 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is a great time to sleep. 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is a great time to wake up.
Oh.
Right? So you can actually convert your dreams into reality when you wake up between 2 to 6 a.m.
Okay. I usually see the dreams when I've slept in the morning for more than like 8 hours.
Yeah.
So if I'm sleeping from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., that's when I dream a lot. At least I remember
Oh,
those
gosh.
dreams.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
are unhealthy dreams.
Very unhealthy.
Very unhealthy. You know, I did that mistake once where I used to wake up at 4 in the morning and do some meditation and chanting. And at 7:30, I used to feel exhausted. And I used to take a little nap. And the kind of dreams I had were so horrid. I never wanted to sleep in the morning. That's a kapha clock. You should never sleep in the morning hours.
Really?
You should be awake. Because if you are sleeping at that point in time, it's creating havoc in your brain.
Huh.
Because your body's mechanism is such that after sunrise, there's a downward moving wind principle that happens that is to push the waste out of your body and the blood circulation starts running in that direction. But when you're sleeping horizontal, all that peristalsis, which is supposed to move downwards, is moving upwards and haywire, causing a lot of confusing dreams and thoughts. Sleeping in the morning is one of the most unhealthy things you can do for your mental health, your gut health, your colon health, and your emotional balance.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll stop sleeping in morning now.
Never. You need to take a nap in the afternoon after
Yeah.
lunch for 20 minutes, sitting in your chair. Don't lie down flat.
Huh.
Just sit in your chair and close your eyes. Let your body decide when you're rested, when you're done. Your body will wake up automatically.
Got it. And you know, what is that one serious illness that you've seen in your career so far because of poor gut health?
Yeah.
Some really deadly disease which you just discovered when you saw it.
You know, number one is skin diseases that happens due to poor gut health. Psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, urticaria. A lot of people live with it, unfortunately, because of poor gut health. Number two is obviously cancer. You know, it always begins with poor gut health. Okay, and then you have all your autoimmune disorders like PCOS, PCOD, thyroid, insulin resistance, diabetes type 2. The worst of it all is your mental health. Your mental health goes for a toss when your gut is not in shape.
Yeah. For pregnant women, what would you not recommend them to have at all in the 9 months?
No alcohol, no smoking, stay away from tamasic foods. You don't want to introduce your child to cruelty. It's best to go on a plant-based diet, stay away from meat, seafood, eggs. But dairy is very good for pregnant women.
Is it?
Yeah, dairy is actually very good during pregnancy if you can get it from a cruelty-free cow farm. The cow gives the same kind of nutrients to its calf and the same kind of nutrients to that pregnant mother to build her fetus, to build her child. So ghee is excellent during pregnancy. Honey is great. A cup of milk is very good with turmeric to reduce inflammation. Maybe not so much dahi and fermented foods. Cottage cheese also is considered a rotten food in Ayurveda technically because it's gone bad. But if you habituated to it, nothing like it. So milk, ghee and honey. These are the 3 foods that's a must-have during pregnancy.
Got it.
If you can access it, source it from a cruelty-free brand. That's why I say, if people like us can stop consuming dairy, we can save the cruelty-free dairy for the pregnant women, the senior citizens and the little children who need it. Say the mother has not been able to make milk for the child. Then for them, we should save it. Otherwise, honestly, none of us need dairy in our body.
Yeah, we have this milk which is had with chocos every day in breakfast. I'll tell everybody to not have it.
Absolutely not. Chocos is an industrial product. It's from an industry and a factory that is manufacturing food, that doesn't grow food. If Mother Nature didn't give it, don't consume it.
Yeah. Very true. I think, with this episode, I'm going to spread a lot of awareness.
I'm so glad. That's our purpose, right?
I think we should keep having these conversations more and more in different mediums, because one source of information given to the other makes it spread to more people.
Absolutely.
And that's how, we become better as a society as well. But, also coming back to this Lay's, Kurkure, all of these preservatives, what is it that these brands are putting into it which makes us so addicted towards it?
Oh gosh. They put millions and billions of dollars designing addictive ingredients that makes you eat not just once but come back to it again and again because your addiction feeds their profit. Right? So FMCG companies profit from your addiction to their foods and pharma profits from your disease, not from your health. So you need to stop being the biggest client or biller for these two, industries. You need to start preserving your health and your sanity through your willpower and confidence.
What about the new age brands that are coming up with these ragi chips, jawar, bajra, all of those kind of preservatives?
I'm a big fan of those.
Are they good to eat?
Yeah. All these organic brands that are made at home by these home chefs, that doesn't have any massive branding or profit intention behind it, but they make small quantity of pickles and ragi chips and nachni chips, that is, or maybe some amount of chakras. I love buying from these boutique cottage industries. Usually most of them are powered by women. They are the ones running these cottage industries. I find them so gratifying. I love interacting with the entrepreneur who started the business, who's making it by themselves. You want to hear their story, their passion, their love for it. Those are the brands that you must consume.
Yeah. What is this farmers market that you were mentioning? Where does it happen? In Bandra?
It always happens in Bandra.
Okay.
It's run by Miss Kavita Mukhi. She's one of my mentors. That's why, I speak so proudly of her. Because by rule, I don't speak about brands, but I do speak about farmers market. And I think every city should have one of this.
And it's like perpetual or happens sometime?
It happens every Sunday.
Oh, every Sunday.
9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Where all the farmers come together and sell their produce directly to you. So it's a B2C business.
How can people find that?
I think Farmers Market is available on Instagram, on Facebook. You could contact them through the social media handle, and it happens at Bandra in this one of these particular school grounds, I think, every Sunday 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. 3 p.m.
I'm gonna go this day.
You should. Touching those vegetables and fruits makes you come alive.
Because I've seen this happen quite a lot in abroad. Every weekend they have this organic, fresh produced vegetables being showcased to the public, But यहाँ पे बहुत कम होता है ये सब. I'm glad this is happening.
New age culture where we go buy our own veggies and fruits. Rather than depending on online apps.
Yeah. In fact, Zepto ka bhi food license they took away because everything was just like gone down the drain.
They were all had expired products placed in unhealthy places, rats plaguing that place. What are you consuming? We've traded health for convenience.
Exactly.
For 2-minute noodles.
It's quite a paradox on health, how humans live through it. But I also want to talk about heartbreaks. So many young people, even older people are facing heartbreaks. But can you heal your heartbreak through healing your gut? Is there a way?
Yes, it's a long road.
Okay.
Just like how they say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. The way to a woman and a man's healing is also through the stomach.
Okay.
Go on a whole food plant-based diet
Huh.
that is sattvic in nature. Sattvic means it is building, it's nourishing, it's empathetic and full of empathy, right? There's kindness in your food, there's no cruelty. When you start consuming kind foods, you start creating kind emotions in your body. You start generating and vibrating a kind energy that starts healing you. You start becoming more conscious about your footprint, about the planet.
Yeah.
You also start becoming more conscious about your carbon footprint, right? What is it creating for the universe?
I get reminded of this movie where Ranveer Singh was in the character of Khilji, and now I know that why it had so much of aggression, because he used to consume so much of meat on a daily basis, whereas the other character of Shahid Kapoor, who was shown to be a Rajputana, he just used to have vegetarian food, and the calmness could be
Yeah.
seen in his behavior because of the food choices that he made. It's just like a parallel that I'm drawing from what you're saying, and it holds so much of meaning right now when I hear you.
Yeah, that's true. You get your tamas from animal-based diet.
Yeah.
And you get your sattvic qualities from a plant-based diet.
Right. What is that one food item that office goers should never have to keep their mind calm?
Sodas, energy drinks, you want to stay away from those.
But Nimbu soda is proven to aid in digestion, no?
I prefer if you had just lemonade.
Huh.
Soda basically helps in dissolving all the undigested foods, but it also erodes the mucus lining, your gut walls. And that mucus is a protective layer. You don't want to erode and corrode it. So people who have a lot of junk and meat and seafood, they need a lot of soda in their body to dissolve that food. But I would suggest, go on a whole food plant-based diet. Don't have soda. Instead, have a lemonade after meals. That's a great way to stimulate your metabolism as well.
Oh, that's a big myth that you've broken, because my parents used to tell me to have soda every time after dinner to digest the food, and I'm questioning that now.
Yeah, if you eat light, if you just have soup and sauteed vegetables,
then it's not needed.
And small portion of carbs and protein like a mung bean khichdi or a biryani or a pulao or some sushi, equal part of carbs and protein, then you really don't need soda. Your body has enough hydrochloric acid to digest it.
Yeah. And can chanting boost your gut health and mental health, and how so?
So chanting basically creates that humming, buzzing sound inside your body when you're chanting, when you're talking positive stuff, when you're, quoting complex shlokas and mantras. That vibration strengthens your vagus nerve, which connects your gut to the brain, and that sends positive signals to the brain on intuitive abilities. That is a very powerful way. So meditation and chanting connects your gut to the brain and the brain to the gut and improves your digestive health as well as your mental health.
And are there any other alternatives to chanting?
Humming, singing,
singing
pranayam.
also.
That's why we sing in the morning to gods. We sing a prayer to gods in the school.
Yeah.
We do our national anthem every Monday. That singing of the prayer strengthens your vagus nerve and strengthens your digestion.
Oh. So all the rituals which we found to be irrelevant now makes good, complete sense.
Nothing was accidental.
Yeah, completely. And how much is our fate inclined to our gut? Because like you said, so many times our gut stores karmas of the past as well, and that reflects in our current life. But how much of that is... Huh?
Something as simple as you having 4 cups of chai per day, which is 8 teaspoons of sugar. That keeps collecting and collecting and collecting in your gut, and one day you end up with pre-diabetic and diabetes type 2 symptoms. That's negative karma. So your gut is storing all that negative energy from the negative foods you've been consuming, which eventually translates into a disease.
But what about the past life?
So that's a far deeper science. Maybe we should save it for another day because it involves a lot of astrological understanding. Your body is a collection of all the memories and events that has happened to you and to your ancestors till date, right? You're the sum of the evolution of your ancestors. So everything that your ancestors have gone through in terms of diseases and experiences and events, like Holocaust survivors, their children end up having the same trauma in their DNA that their parents had or grandparents had at the time of Holocaust, right? So your body is a sum of all their traumas. That's called ancestral trauma. That's also called negative karma that you carry forward. So the only way to break that negative karma is through conscious meditation, breath work, pranayama, yoga, inward introspection. That's the way to break that karma.
Interesting. We should have a session on this separately sometime.
Absolutely.
But you know, a lot of women are also getting rid of their uterus in their early 50s these days. Is that a good thing to do? Or is it just a trend which everybody is following because the doctors have been saying that, or because somebody in their neighborhood got it done?
It's not really a trend. It's trying to solve a problem quickly without looking at the root cause. Now, lots of women are going for hysterectomy, oophorectomy, getting the ovaries removed, getting the uterus removed because there's way too much inflammation. There's way too many fibroids and cysts and, toxic diseases being built up. Unless it's a cancerous tumor, there's no reason for you to remove it. You need to address your diet and reduce inflammation in your diet. You need to cut out all the inflammatory foods and the trigger foods from your diet, which is packaged processed foods, red meat, processed meat, seafood, eggs, and even dairy is inflammatory, by the way. You need plant-based diet that helps in reducing inflammation. Go on a detox for 90 days and see if your health has improved. If your health is still not improved, then you ask the doctor for remedies to keep this under control, to buy more time. If you can prevent a surgery, nothing like it, because your body doesn't forget the trauma of a surgery for 7 years. So when you remove the uterus, it's still very confusing for the pituitary and the pineal gland that is instructing the uterus to create hormones, to create estrogen during the first 15 days, progesterone during the next 15 days. The signals are still coming from the brain, but the signals are not being received because the uterus is absent. The uterus is not present anymore. And that leads to a lot of mental imbalances for some patients. On the period cycle day, they feel like completely out of whack and, feeling stressed and distressed because the uterus has been removed. There are hormonal signals being produced by the body, but there's no one to receive those signals.
So is LASIK surgery also bad? Because you said the trauma remains for 7 years.
The woman who invented LASIK surgery apparently never got it done.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because she says nothing is going to touch my eyes. She prefers wearing glasses.
So is that a bad thing? That
I don't categorize anything as bad and good anymore. There's a necessity for some things and there's not a necessity for some things. If it's just a minor eye power and you can bear it with reading glasses, and if you can improve your eye health using yoga, there are eye exercises in yoga. There's also netratarpanam treatments in Ayurveda. Why not? Only if it's like, chronic case of blindness, where you're just completely helpless without your glasses and you get that surgery done, fine. You had a necessity for it.
Yeah.
Surgery should not become a convenience that you lean towards every time something is inconvenient to you.
So you can remove your power with yoga?
There are some people who reverse their eyesight
Do you
issues.
help with that?
Not me. I'm not an expert on that.
Like your company does?
No, we're not an expert on that.
Okay.
Our core expertise is gut health and colon health.
Got it. Let me know who does it for the eye. I want it for myself. Yeah. And lastly, because you said that, you've helped people reverse their cancers, I want to ask you, you haven't?
No. So what we do is support patients who've recovered from cancer.
Oh, who've already recovered.
Who've gone through chemotherapy.
Okay.
Or who are undergoing chemotherapy. We support their recovery through the right diet and medication.
Got it.
We've seen patients reverse cancer with Ayurveda.
You can tell about that.
Ayurvedic hospital in Goa, where they were able to reverse cancer and they continue to come to us for their maintenance treatments.
Okay.
So we help patients during the recovery process, during the chemotherapy, and post-chemotherapy we do help them.
Got it.
Right, but we don't make tall promises that we may not be able to fulfill at the moment.
Yeah.
But we do help cancer patients.
But with Ayurveda, cancer can be reversed?
Yes, there are patients who've reversed cancer using Ayurveda. We've met one of them in our clinic, and this patient Neha, she's such a fabulous example. The first time she had cancer, she did chemotherapy, but the cancer came back aggressively, and the second time she chose not to do chemo. This is not for everyone. She chose not to do chemo, and she went through Ayurvedic Panchakarma treatment every month for 8 days, for several months together, till the poison was pulled out of her system and her cells started behaving themselves.
What's the Panchakarma treatment?
Panchakarma is the 5 ways of detoxifying toxins from your body. So it's an Ayurvedic treatment, and you can check in at any Panchakarma center.
Yeah.
We have one too in Bandra. It's a great way to pull poison and toxins out of your system.
Interesting. I'm definitely coming to your clinic
Please
after
come.
this episode.
Come. We'll be happy to host you.
Yeah, but no, this was really nice. And just one thing that struck my mind also, since we're speaking about Ayurveda, is using the toothpastes of different other brands today good for your oral health, or is there an Ayurvedic alternative also that
Yeah.
people should ideally use?
See, any toothpaste that has fluoride in it is a big no, although they say that it preserves the teeth, but it comes at a price. It weakens your pituitary gland and that gets fluoridated over a period of time. It turns from pink to white because of the excess presence of fluoride. It affects your IQ level, your mental health and emotional health. It's better to move to toothpaste that's herbal in nature, that has clove in it, that has cinnamon, neem. There are a lot of brands, Indian brands that are authentic Ayurvedic brands. Neem twigs was used back in the day. It's great for your dental health and your gum health. Oil pulling is great with sesame oil or coconut oil if you don't like the taste of sesame. Gargling, gandusha, brushing with a bamboo toothbrush, scraping your tongue with a copper tongue cleaner or a silver or a steel tongue cleaner. These are powerful ways of getting waste out of your system. I would any day prefer this than a fancy toothpaste that has fluoride in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Cool. No, but I've taken a lot of your time and information. I don't want to bother you more.
I'm glad.
That
Any
is-
takeaway from it goes to more people, more than happy.
Yeah. I have so many more questions, but we'll keep that for round 2.
Absolutely.
Keeping the time in mind. But thank you so much, Dimple. It's been like a wonderful masterclass on gut health with you, and I'm sure so many people are going to benefit from it.
I'm so glad. Lots of love to you and kudos to you for the amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you.